6 o'clock, and we will come reconvene to open session. There was no action items during closed session, nothing to report. Do we have any public participation on non-agenda items? Okay. All right, so I will go ahead and read our public comment announcement. Individuals may address the board on agenda items on both closed session and regular session agenda during public participation and or at the time they are under consideration by completing the form provided at the table and submitting to Anna. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Speakers may be chosen in random order, and each person may only speak once per agenda topic and is required to address the board from the podium, and that's to ensure that the public can hear. And public comment cannot be acted upon or discussed by the board unless placed on the agenda at a subsequent meeting in accordance with the Brown Act. The board may request staff to respond orally at the meeting or in writing at a future time, and a total of 20 minutes will be per topic. And please remember that the meeting is videoed and broadcast on our YouTube channel. Okay. All right, so I can ask for approval of the agenda. Is there anything that needs to be moved or tabled? Is Mr. Ice, is anybody coming from Ice and Associates?
The bond survey
right.
follow-up.
No? Okay, I just wanted to, I feel bad when they're staying till the end when they could
Make a
driving back.
motion, we approve the agenda.
Can we just delete special meeting on 12?
I thought that got taken off. Okay, but anyway.
24.
So you printed before too?
Well, I printed this morning.
Oh. It's still on there, yeah. It's on Thursday, the 24th and 12.2.
Part of it's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, the dates, well, the date's underneath. I
It
guess.
was under here,
Yeah.
or it was down under 13
I
as
make a
well.
motion, we approve the agenda as modified.
I second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, trustee Makla had a family to attend to, and so she's not here, so we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we will start with acknowledgements. Do we have any, Becky? I'm trying to get to my...
I'm trying to get to mine right now too. Hold on just a second. We do have some donations, yes. Acknowledgements. Let me just open it up. Sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. I opened. Okay.
Okay, all
Oh,
right.
because I was in the September folder. Sorry.
I was gonna say, there's nothing here, but, okay. All right, and communication, any communication from the board? Or to the board, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
Well, I think we all got probably the same stuff. So.
I don't know if you guys got this. This is, there was an audit that I got a nice letter about from Prop 39. And I had, I had checked with Becky to make sure that it went off and everything was fine, and so it did.
Yeah. She was lovely. She sat in my office for a couple days. Nice person.
Okay.
Always a plus.
Right? Because I think everyone received the information on the new health insurance cards. And we had gotten that,
Oh,
of course.
yeah.
And the Walk to School, we'd gotten a letter from Walk to School grant. Their grants, no? I was the only one that got one? Should have brought it. They were running out of money, so they were asking for donations.
Who's running out of money?
The grant for Walk to School.
Oh.
And so I don't know, I think it ends, I don't even want to quote, but it's going to end. So they wanted to be able to provide that service, I guess, at Dana Gray's was happening.
Yeah, it was the bike.
Right. So that might go away if they don't have funds. So I will give Anna the letter so we can put it in the board packet. And then I think we all received the TLC invite for their open house.
Okay. Any public participation on agenda items? Seeing none? All right, we're on to board reports, so I will, actually, Mary, okay, I don't have anything for that. I know Mary has been very busy, attending a lot of things in the district, so, anyone else have?
Sure. Well, I checked with my site to give a quick update on what they're doing. Bruce sent me the following information, and if you have anything to add, please do. Students will be taking a California survey the week of October 28th, health kids survey for 9th and 11th graders, and tobacco survey for 10th and 12th graders. Ms. Alexander just sent out an all-call for that survey to the appropriate families. So look out for that. Link Leader Student Conference in Ukiah, October 25th. Kelly Smith, which is active student engagement training, is back at the high school. She's training both the CTE and PE teachers. Friday is our last home football game, so everyone should come out and support our team tomorrow night. Catherine Scott will be at the school this Saturday for any students wanting help with college essays or applications from 8:30 to 12:30. I believe it'll be in the library. That's my guess anyway. Last home volleyball game, I think, is happening now, so for those of you not at the meeting, you have a good excuse. And end of the grading period is November 1st. I think that's it.
Okay, well, I attended the homecoming rally, had lots of kids having a good time in the gym. Went to the homecoming game, went to the TLC open house, got a close-up of what they do there, and had a nice visit. Have not made it over to my site, Connie, but I soon will, kind of letting you settle in. I know I'd see you tonight, so I didn't bug you, but I'll be contacting you soon.
So my site is middle school, and I spoke briefly with Miss Laura, and we're just going to announce what was on the on the home page, which is always updated. So keep checking it every hour, every day. They're going to have a Halloween dance October 25th, which I think is next Friday. They, I think, are also going to be having 7th graders do the Healthy Kids survey, and the permission slip's coming out soon, if not already. Also on the district homepage, along with middle school, is a public health announcement advising, urging everyone to refrain from vaping. So there's an article there, and you can probably look more on that subject. 8th graders are still a few that did not turn in their blue promotion standards in the front office, so please do that. Spirit Week next week at Fort Bragg Middle School. Halloween costume on the 31st. Grading period is also ending on November 1st. And clear your students' absences, 961-2870. And there are many clubs during the lunch hour at middle school. And I was able to attend volleyball for middle school, a tournament in Arcata, and the girls did quite well. Out of 16 teams, they placed 6th. They got 2 consolations. That was great. High school site council I attended on the 24th of September, middle school site council, high school parent night and homecoming halls on October 2nd, which was really fun to see the halls up close and personal. Homecoming rally, air bands, and the football game. And I just really want to commend the staff at the high school because that's a lot of work. But it's so fun. It was so wonderful to see the kids being silly at the air bands and just really engaging and like those belly laughs. I mean, everyone was having a really good time, and that's precious. So thank you all for all your hard work for that week. I also attended the TLC open house and met new friends. Attended the FFA pork dinner, drive-by fundraiser for dinner on the 9th, and was able to see happy faces taking walks on Tennis Shoe Tuesday online. So thank you, Anna, for sharing that, because it really does clear your head, and I didn't get to do that day. And then I also continue enjoying Becky's staff blog, along with the EdSource articles and CSBA news, and I'm reading Fully Charged.
Okay, and I didn't get a list together. So. Okay, so now it's, well, it kind of goes with the, wait, what's that? Oh, sorry, I didn't flip the page. Okay. Now we're moving on to superintendent's report.
So the first thing on the agenda is about my goals, and we had talked about my
I got to
8.2, right there. 8.2.
Oh, I thought it was down here.
So we have a tool that we've talked about, and we didn't get it into the board packet, but is there anything on the tool that there were some revisions made to it? Is there anything that you have questions on about that tool?
Nothing came up. The one thing I think that we were going to try to do is pick the things on the back for the personal,
Okay.
right? Am I
Standards,
understanding that
right.
correctly? Okay.
And I think we're supposed to report out on a couple of the areas for performance goals in general. That's the main reason why it's on the agenda, is to have a public. So I don't know if you want to
No, if you
read a
would
few.
just go ahead, if you wouldn't mind reading what the goals are.
Or
Someone,
the
whoever wants
priority
to.
areas. Do you want to do that, Kathy?
Okay. So our priority, so I don't want to take, so of course, the big umbrellas are student achievement, human resources, finance and budget, community relations, and then there are some professional and personal qualities that are part of your standards as a superintendent. So under those things, we have, for example, for one of the student achievement is to ensure that all school plan for student achievement are aligned to district LCAP, supported by data and implemented with collaboration of stakeholders. So the tool itself is a public document. Of course, her evaluation is, once we fill it out, is not, but if anybody would, once we get this all buttoned up, if anybody would like to see that, please let me know. And then, for example, one of the items under human resources is improve employee morale through embracing a collaborative work environment for all staff. And then one of our goals under finance and budget is to build stakeholder confidence in district financial decisions, which we've really been trying to do that with more open discussions. And then our community relations is to develop improved communications between district and community stakeholders as well. And then I believe we were going to try to have something more authentic and meaningful off of that back page to fill in on what is our page 5 of 7. Or we can just choose to leave it.
Or, yeah, have it remain the same.
Right.
But
And that-
there's actually a board policy that gives us these ideas from CSBA, and so we were just wanting to review it.
I think it's,
That's all. But this is just a report, so we really can't make a decision right now. Right?
okay,
We're just reporting out.
moving on.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right.
Okay, so next is 8.3.1, which is the LCAP priorities. So every year, prior to November 1, we have to designate on our dashboard if we are meeting or not meeting these 7 priorities. The other priorities, numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6, I was already able to submit as met. It was the Healthy Kids Survey, because we do those every other year. And so these are the 3 that I need to get your approval on. Priority 1, priority 2, and priority 7. These are the surveys that I submitted. Priority 1 is on appropriately assigned teachers, access to curriculum, aligned instructional materials, safe, clean, functional school facilities. That's really more of a Williams report. The number of misassignments for teachers of English learners is 0. And some people would say, well, wait a minute, we have a lot of teachers who are not credentialed in the classroom. A teacher who is on a pre-intern permit is credentialed, so that's not a misassignment. And we have no positions right now that are open without anyone in them. So even when we have a sub in there who is fully credentialed in that subject area, like with math, we're fine. So I called Samantha Travis, just so you know, at MCOE to make sure that I was submitting these correctly, and she said I was. So for priority 1, we're fine. Implementation of state academic standards, you can see how I answered the questions. We are more into full implementation on language arts because we've had the adoptions now. This is the 4th year of that adoption. The reason why I did most of those in 4s and not sustainability, because we're still working out some of the the kinks and some of the process and procedures. We're looking at screeners for reading. There are lots of things that are going on with that. So you can see how I rated us. And then priority 7 is access to a broad course curriculum. This is very much like the responses that we gave last year. There's really nothing new. So those are the final 3. I need to be able to say that I presented this at a board meeting, which is why it's in report. There's nothing for you to approve. You can ask me any questions you want on them. This still can be changed. I have all of this in our portal, and tomorrow morning when I start work, I'm going to hit submit because I will have showed you tonight. So are there any questions on this? Great. Next, 8.3.2, that's the exciting one. On the 4th of July, while everyone was at the parade, I was in my office writing this grant with help from other people and putting it together. And the reason I was in there on the 4th of July, because I was pretty much guaranteed that no one would call me. No one would come in with an issue. And there were no kids in school. So the nice thing is we got the grant. Yay! So we didn't get our full amount. We asked, I want to say we asked for like $662,000. We did not get the full amount, but this amount split over 5 years is significant. It's over $70,000 a year for 5 years. So when we wrote the grant, we were very specific that it would be towards tobacco education, that we would use one of our local peace officers to have a school resource officer dedicated to our 5 sites, use that person for tobacco education and also in public relations. So we will be meeting with the city, hopefully within the next month, to organize a meeting on how we move forward. Then we need to work with CDE to figure out how we get the money coming in. So the wonderful thing is that we were awarded $364,212 over 5 years. So very exciting. So hooray, thank you everybody who signed, thank you for everybody who came in. Next, 8.3.3.
Becky, sorry,
Yes,
does this include vaping,
yes.
all tobacco
Yes.
products?
Yes,
Great.
yes. And we actually listed vaping in the grant specifically.
Thank you, great job.
Next, MTSS is the multi-tiered system of support. There is a California MTSS project. It is a pilot grant. 7 districts in California were chosen to participate. We didn't even apply for this. We were chosen. We got knocked on the shoulder and say, hey, we'd like to use Fort Bragg Unified in this pilot grant. Would you like to do it? We went down to Rancho Cordova to discover the details. We have to identify 2 schools that will be accessing this grant. We've chosen Dana Gray and the middle school, and the reason for that is the 2 schools together, it gives us a primary and a secondary, and it gives us a 6-year grade span, which is great. So it'll give us 3 years for Dana Gray, grades 3, 4, and 5. It'll continue to middle school for grades 6, 7, and 8, and hopefully over the course of 2 years, we can follow the kids who've been part of both schools. So for us, it means that Dana Gray will receive $25,000 this year, an additional $25,000 for next year. Middle school will receive the same, $25,000 this year, $25,000 the following year, for a total of $100,000. Mr. Kale and Mrs. Vieira are already working with our resources at MCOE to help plan on how to use that money appropriately for professional development to help move the multi-tiered system of support forward in their schools. So we're excited about it. That's why it's on the report. Any questions about that?
We will take all the extras we can get.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
Yeah, that's great.
it's good stuff. 8.3.4 is cultural sensitivity training. One of the things that we've been talking with various parents in the community and various parents in our school is looking at what we do as a staff, as a school site, in terms of cultural sensitivity, and what does that mean? It doesn't mean racist, non-racist, biased, non-biased. It means looking at all cultures and identifying that our kids come to us from different cultures. They come to us from different walks of life. And as much as we can do to honor and have awareness to those cultures, and teaching about those cultures, then what happens is that our kids have more of an opportunity to learn from each other. I do have some concerns with cultural sensitivity in our schools and in our greater community. I'm not saying that people are racist. What I'm saying is that I think at times it's something that we need to address. And so I'm working with Kim Kern at Mendocino County Office of Education to really have that discussion, because I think it's something right now, especially with the climate in our country, it's something that we need to be cognizant of. And more than anything, I want kids from all cultures in our school to feel welcomed, to feel valued, and to feel that they are just as important as anybody else. So it's something that we are looking at. Like I said, Kim Kern is the new assistant superintendent at MCOE for educational services. And at our MTSS training, we were able to meet a few people from the California Department of Education and the Orange County Office of Education, who will be joining us in this endeavor to help us pull together something for our district that can be ongoing, so that it's not just a one-shot, here's a speaker. We are looking at different resources. I'm working with Kelly Smith, and Tia Elena Martinez is going to, I'm in contact with her, trying to get a meeting with her. I spoke with Julie Adams today, and one of her counterparts is a really good resource in this particular subject matter. What I'm hoping to do is to create, with Kim's help, kind of a community advisory committee, so that we can look at that and then plan out what would be best for our kids at this grade, our parents at this grade, and community events as well. And is that speakers in Cotton? We're not quite sure yet, but I want to put this on your radar because we are going down this path. I think it's something that we absolutely need to address, and I think it's something that we need to bring parents in for, so that they can provide input as well. But I just wanted to let you know that I am reaching out to other people outside of our county to help us facilitate this. It's difficult when you are in the middle of your community to be able to talk about cultural sensitivity. Oftentimes, if you really want the message heard, you need to bring someone in from the outside, so that there are no biases and we can really have the conversation on how to make it better for everybody. So, putting that on your radar, it's informational only at this time.
So this kind of goes along to some of our MIG training about preparing for today's world.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that we can do as a board to support, I think would be great. Any training we can be a part of
Agreed.
to help support the staff and students. So thanks.
Thank you. The Williams Settlement Report, Dana Gray, bless their souls. It was another Williams year for Dana Gray. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be a Williams year again next year at Dana Gray. It's been a Williams year for the last 4 years at Dana Gray. I don't know why they haven't chosen a new school, but Mr. Kale's really good at this. And so I know every principal is in full support of Mr. Kale holding on to that torch. So just so you know, there's the Williams letter, so you could see that it passed and it was fantastic.
The actual report came in today, and
That's what this
That's
is.
what-
Okay, gotcha.
it's received today.
Thank you. And that'll be uploaded.
Yes.
If
For the
anybody
minutes.
wants to read.
Mr.
That's
Kale, I
at
think
home.
you should have like a whole
Binder.
framed area in your office. Okay, this we are putting on your radar. I'm gonna hand over the mic to Wendy about our copiers. Oh, pass these down.
It's you, for you.
Okay, so our current copier lease is getting ready to expire in January, and this is, I'm glad we only do this every 5 years. It's just like a whole other world, and, you know, the terminology and what they put in, what they have put. So there are 2 companies that I think are reasonable for us to consider. One is Ray Morgan, who we've been working with for the last almost 5 years. And it's Systems, and my reasoning for that is they are the only ones who have anything that resembles local support. Ray Morgan has actually got people who are housed closer to us than they have in the past. Some of the other Texas, actually in Cloverdale. trucks out of there. Discovery has people in Ukiah, so they're reasonably close. Nobody is close, but, you know, that's about as good as we're gonna do. You can see there, I did a breakdown of, I was very, not stern with them, but I made it very clear to them that I needed to compare apples to apples, so I wanted these machines, and I wanted this time frame, and I wanted, you know, to know X, Y, and Z. And I was able to get them to do that. One of them tried to, you know, bring some other stuff in, and I said, nope, don't want that. I want this, because that was the only way to make a reasonable decision. Some of the terms are different, and there are a couple of things that are still a little bit up in the air. For instance, if we do change, there will be some kind of a buyout of the rest of the lease for the ones we have now. Discovery is saying that I just came up with those figures today and sent them to him. He said, you know, they'll do what they can to work with us to help us mitigate those costs. But even if we ended up eating that, their cost per month is much lower. The one thing about the Ray Morgan proposal is that it commits us for only 48 months with the ability to re-up a year at a time after that. So, you know, the other way, we are committed for the 60 months. So, based purely on cost, I think Discovery is probably going to be the best option, because it's going to be less than that, because I know they're going to cover some of that cost. I just don't know how much, so that's why I didn't include anything in there. The other thing I want to do is chat with ADCO about it next week and get their take on their feeling about the machines they have and what we would be replacing it with. But this is, you know, apples to apples that we have here to take a look at.
So I did this for the city,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things I was able to do is the overages could be allocated between the different sites.
They're annualized. It's on there.
Okay.
I asked them because
So if
I
Redwood ends
realized
up
that
using way
was
too many, then-
unfair. I said, okay, you know, this is this much per month, but there are some months where we get slammed, and then there's, you know, July and December and, you know, other months when there's not a lot going on, where we don't get any credit for going under. So I did kind of beat them up on that a little bit, and I got one of them to say, yes, we'll annualize. So I went to the other one, I said, any chance you can annualize the images? And so they both agreed to do that. And then you can see the increase that is built into the per cost overages are also subject to an increase. So each year they're allowed to go up a certain amount, and so one of the companies threw a number out there already, and I thought, okay, I'm going to see what the other one will do. And so I said, can you cap the increase? And so they came in at actually a lower capped increase. So. And they're also did mention that they'd be willing to work with us on the image numbers, so I might be able to get that 191 up a little bit, so that it would be. But you know, the whole idea is to encourage people to use less.
Right.
And by the way,
Yeah.
middle school gets the award for the biggest decrease in copier use.
So I was going to bring that up because I was looking at the budgets that are on the agenda, and Kale's budget for copying is like almost obsolete. Everyone else is like 3,600. So I don't know what you're doing, how you're copying, or what that money is, how you've allocated that because every other site's about 3,600 or a good 3,000. So maybe you're not using as many copies, and that would be the total goal for this.
Well, I did an analysis by quarter, by site, on every.
And you're doing number of copies, right?
Session
Yeah.
in a board meeting, there you go, right there, that's the exciting
No, but I
stuff
mean,
right here, ladies
I
and
had to go
gentlemen.
through this to be ready to talk to
Right,
these people,
so
because I
you're-
didn't want them saying, oh, well, you use blah, 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 without, you know, looking into it myself.
So
I
you're
do
looking
have-
at the quantity of copies,
Yes.
and these are dollar amounts. So I was kind of equating it that he was using less copies, but that's not true. So that was, yeah, anyway.
Middle school did a great job reducing their copies.
So that's where we are with that. Once we do make a final decision, it'll come back to you for approval and ratification, and,
So can you, I know this sounds funny, but as being one of these people that uses these copy machines and when they go down, it's like the world stops, can you check some other districts or something that may use Discovery before I mean, if we've
Yeah,
had,
I can do
just
that.
so that you know when you call
Mhm.
this guy in Cloverdale or is
Right.
gonna, you know, how long it'll be before they show up.
Good
So,
point.
The Discovery's in Ukiah, Ray Morgan's in
Okay,
Cloverdale.
sorry. So how long it
Yeah.
takes to get somebody here? I mean, just thinking of, I mean, the cost savings seems great, but
Mhm.
if they don't come for a week, you'll have a riot.
And Wendy and I talked about bringing this to you. This is not really an action item for the board, but we want
It's
to
just-
bring it to the
thank
board
you.
as an action item because of how this happened before. So, see, for the two YouTube viewers out there, so we're trying to make this as transparent as possible so that everyone knows that we are having this discussion. Oh, there's one person. Okay, so for the one person out there, hello, how are you?
Probably Charlie.
Oh, hi, Charlie. So we really wanted to make this transparent because
Well, it is a budget. I mean, it does affect
It's a
our budget.
budget item.
I think it's. I
Well, we
like hearing
wanted you
that.
to be aware of the process, that
Right.
we're
I appreciate
meeting
that.
with different vendors and that we are doing a full analysis of it before we bring a contract for you to ratify.
And the
And-
type of machine will change?
It will be either Canons or Kyoceras. We had Kyoceras before.
But
Well, just-
comparable, like, capability, or is this
Yeah,
higher
they
tech?
came and visited and
Yeah.
saw what we had and made sure that what that they quoted was comparable to what
Well,
we
I
have
just
now.
know the toughest aspect of when I did it was getting the staff to get used to a new
Mm-hmm,
machine.
they learn quickly. If you want copies, you'll figure it out.
right. But the machines are getting more complicated. You know,
Well,
just
very true.
they're all computerized now. And at my work, we use Xerox, and luckily, when my boss retires, I will be able to work for Xerox because I fix the machine because no one comes to fix it. So you talk to the tech, and we're friends. But luckily, it doesn't happen often. But it's totally a good point to make sure that you have someone because school shuts down. I mean, if you can't make a copy.
Well, and I appreciate the work that Wendy's done on this, and just so that, I know principals, you're hearing this for the first time, it's maintaining the level of machine that you have. So for instance, we know that there's 2 at the high school, because the high school is the big winner chicken dinner, right? You make more copies than anybody. So,
So you win that prize, Laura gets the reduction prize.
so know that that's still maintained. Questions? Any more questions? Thank you, Wendy, for putting this together.
Those are the fun things to do, spreadsheets and
I know.
analysis.
I'm all about that.
Well, I had no idea, to be quite honest with you, that it was going to be that kind of a savings. I thought it was going to be super close.
Yeah, I think they will come back.
That's
Good
great.
for us.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, all right, we're moving on to approval of agenda consent items. Anything that anybody had questions or concerns with? Okay,
So I move to approve the consent items.
A second.
Dana, will you read them?
Yeah.
9.1 warrants dated September 30th, 2019. Minutes of the regular board meeting on September 12th, 2019. Personnel action report. The Williams quarterly report, first quarter.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, so our action items for the evening.
Oh, this is the hot ticket item here.
Mm-hmm.
The calendar. So it's 100% up to you. I don't, however you want to do this. I believe that the majority of our community would like to have another day with the October break. You can see all of the options. I think what we need to decide as a board moving forward is, you know, what do you envision that October break to be? The reason why we had 3 days last year and not this year is because we moved days around. The one concern that I have with the calendar that I have to say out loud is that we need to have conversations with our bargaining units about snow days, meaning power outage days. because the state is becoming more and more reluctant to grant waivers in areas who consistently have power outages because of inclement weather. So it's something that we have to consider. It's something that we have to bring to the bargaining table because we have to be able to negotiate those days that they could be potential work days. And what that means if you don't work on a certain day even though you intended to work. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So the only concern I have is that if we do something like option 2 in the calendar and have an extra day at the December break at the end,
Mhm.
that means that prior to the December break, if there are any power outages, we could use that day as a snow day and come back to school a day early. Make sense? The day at April is hugely important because that means if we have a day between January and April that goes out for power outage, that could be a snow day. But we haven't bargained that. So you can choose a calendar that would allow us to have some wiggling room with bargaining. The October days, I'm going to just hang out on a limb here and say that we're probably not going to have any power outages prior to October 10th. So those really wouldn't be snow days. Make sense? So that's my only concern with the calendar. I do recognize that from all of our surveys, not everyone, 50% of our group is going option one, and that's really about the October break because you have 3 days there. My only concern, like I said, is just having some built-in snow days, but again, that has to be bargained. So whatever option you choose, it is what it is.
Well, and I believe that all the people were 90 people. And
All
I
the
think-
people are 90 people, yes. We're not
So-
talking the whole town here.
Right, so you have to take that with a grain of salt, as well as the admin, I believe, wanted proposal 1.
The
So
admin
that's-
wanted proposal 2,
Or 2,
but you know,
Right.
the minute you
That's-
say the
I'm sorry.
admin want, that's like the kiss of death,
well,
right?
no, I'm just saying that they also had, they also had, but there are many working families that want proposal 2 as well.
It just, and like I said, I recognize that the greater majority wanted proposal 1, and you are the board, you get to choose. We will work with whatever proposal you choose. In truth, there's not that much of a variation among these 3 choices for people to get rip-roaring mad about. And that's just the honest to God's truth. So these are the 3 choices. I am going to have to talk to the bargaining units this year about the calendar and snow days. I believe it's now inevitable. So with any of the options, the April date still has an extra day, and that was purposeful. So I don't believe we've had any more than just 1 day in district so far. We've never had 2. Have we had 2 days in a row? Oh, I must have skipped that year. So at least all the calendars have the April option.
Well, we almost had a power shutdown last week.
So last week was interesting. The power shut off for last week. We made it into the list accidentally. And then we were removed, meaning we, Fort Bragg, were removed from the list within an hour. But we were on it for about an hour. From all accounts, the moment this conversation started, we had never been placed in a position where we thought that Fort Bragg was ever going to be part of the rolling power outages. The reason why we were on the list is because of how the power comes into our town, and that could have been an issue. But we were unscathed on that.
I guess just to start the discussion, I advocate for option 2. Just to give you that flexibility, should power go out in the fall. And we just
Well-
had a 4-day weekend, I think everyone enjoyed it. I don't know if 5 is necessary in October.
Well, and I know, being a viewer as a parent over the years, it's taken the school district a long time to get the 1 week down to 2. And we know for kids and student achievement, it's not ideal to have a longer break in an October when you're kind of getting rolling, but you still do have 2 days off. But I know when you're traveling, that 5th day would be nice.
And I also know the winter break, at least a lot of people I work with from Mexico take that time to go see family, and so having a little extra day, especially not having to travel back the day after New Year's, it's just nice for them to have that option, for anyone traveling that time, really. So that's my reasoning.
I have a problem totally dismissing the poll that we went through all the work to do. And to say, 90 people don't mean anything. I see the wisdom in option 2. I don't know that one day in October, if that's what the public wanted, makes a whole lot of difference. So
The good news is I get to say this is what the board voted on.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my quandary.
And like I said, there's not one of these options that is so significantly different from the other.
Right.
And it's incumbent upon me to make sure that I tell you what my concerns are. My concerns are right now is that we are going to have to build in snow days. We can do that with any of these options.
Right.
And in truth, if it comes back that we need more snow days, guess what? I may have to come to you and say, I know you adopted a calendar, but we may have to make a drastic change.
Well, in another view, and I think I emailed Ms. Walker, I was worried and concerned about ADA. Did we have any records or data to say, with a 3-day, did we have less ADA missed days versus if we had 2 days? If we had a 2-day a year, one year, and we had way more kids missing school day, true school days, losing ADA, then that would be warranted to disclose, to say, it's better for us on a financial and a student achievement level that we keep it at a 2-day, or that we keep it at a 3 because there's too much financial repercussions and lack of learning. So I wanted that as well. So I don't know.
I looked at staff attendance. We had more staff present this year. I think I sent you those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
We had more staff present this year than the year before, but there's a lot of changes with that. We had negotiated PTO differently so that paid time off wasn't at the employee's discretion. It was now, there were parameters on that for this year, so that's why we had fewer employee absences. For kids, I wasn't able to look at the ADA for kids, but I think if you talk with the principals, I don't think there was a significant amount of kids absent on Monday. At least I don't remember seeing that, and I don't know what all of you say. Did you notice any significant absences?
I don't think in depth with the break is more about the illness that's running rampant through the schools.
We've got a nice little flu bug going around.
Mm.
It's super special.
So, go ahead.
I agree with Jerry about the, to go with the, why ask the question if we're not going to try to honor that. But so with that said, I would like to see if the board agrees that we want to move, for lack of another way to say it, to leave that option off in the future years, because we've really argued that the October break is not good for kids. And so if we don't put that out there and give that an option, then we won't be kind of slapping people in the face saying, well, we didn't really care what you said.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a thought, is to, yes, if we want to approve that this year, and then let's not put it out there to make people upset if we really feel that that's not good for education.
It just breaks up 2 weeks. And I have to tell
Well,
you.
and I worry about that. I think, people will be like, oh, I can just take another day. Oh, it's, this week is, I worry about Wednesday, because Wednesday's a half day, and everybody's like, well, I don't really, it's only a half day, so we'll take Wednesday off.
Right.
Well, and then it's like, oh, well, let's go Tuesday. So I'm not a big fan of splitting the weeks up, making the 2 short weeks, because I think it just opens up excuses to not come to school.
But then at the same time, people either honor the calendar or they don't. It doesn't matter when we pick
Yeah.
the calendar. Unfortunately, people either honor the calendar or they don't. And I think that's just a small pocket of folks.
And when we get to the October break, everyone's excited. Everyone's happy. I get it. It's not that, well, I'm not even going to say it. I get it. I get it.
So I'll make a motion to adopt proposal 2 and, as the calendar for 2021.
And Mary's 2 cents, which I guess I should have said before, was that she, because of the stakeholder feedback, that she said it wasn't a hill to die on and that one was fine with her too. So, but we do have to have a second before that can go to discussion.
Or it could die for lack of a second.
Yes.
Sounds like it's gonna die.
Well, so can we, I don't know if that would be part of the motion in the sense that, to give the directive for
Well, you
next
could-
year.
Someone can,
Someone had an opinion.
someone could second it, and then you could do a vote, and then you could either yay or nay the vote, and then if it goes on a nay, then someone could motion again.
But you're
Or,
talking about for next year, not
Mhm.
including it? Well, I think that's kind of a direct, I mean, if we want to give, if I'm not the only one that has that opinion, then
Well-
we, or Jerry and I mean, if there's a majority say, yeah, let's leave it off next year. I don't know if that's really has to be in the motion.
Well, we can just do it next year.
Right.
Not have to explain it this year.
Well, I'm going to second,
It's lonely out there, huh?
well, because I really do feel, I mean, I've been
a
watching
calendar.
and
It's okay.
I really do feel that 2 days is best for kids.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, and now we'll open it up for discussion.
Is there any public?
Any public comment? Any board questions or discussion?
I just have to tell you, this is probably the most exciting board meeting we have had in a long time. It's all over a day. It's pretty exciting, and Mary is missing it.
She is.
No, she's watching on YouTube.
Oh, is she?
Okay, there's 4 now.
Oh, there's 4.
Uh-oh.
And all these years, we had Judah Millen as our student rep, had nothing like this. He would have enjoyed this.
Well, we're trying to get into student reps. We're trying to make them more
Oh,
exciting.
exciting stuff here at Fort Bragg Unified. Come one, come all.
Okay, well, it's, my
Voting
instinct is it's gonna be a swing, or it's gonna be a split vote, so let's have some discussion so that either one of us, I mean, or it's just gonna die, right? I mean,
Mhm.
so, not to be, but, I mean,
Well, just to, I guess, support my motion, there were 80 responses, and just over half wanted proposal 1. And so I don't really feel like we're not listening to the community by choosing a proposal that it sounds like, I don't want to use the word administration, but administration, and from what I've heard, discussion supports the students and will help attendance and all that. So I don't, saying that we're ignoring the public seems to me just.
well, that's not what, that's just gonna be some people's perception. I'm not saying that we're ignoring the public.
Right.
I'm saying that's gonna be the perception, is that, well, you asked us and that you don't care anyway. Because we've been claimed to do that before.
Well, I'm happy to.
3 years
Anyone
ago.
can call me.
3 years ago, Scott, we spent hours and hours and hours on the calendar. This is so easy by comparison.
Well, because I think we've done the hard work to get the calendar to where it's at. Trustee Schneider made a very good comment about our Hispanic community, that we do have a large contingent who leave at the holidays, and we have short-term independent study contracts, and this would eliminate 1 day off that contract. Is that significant for us? If I'm a mama and taking my kids away over the break, hey, it's significant, 1 day of work. Ask the high school, it's 5 hours worth of work. So that's something to look at, because the only difference between option 1 and 2 and 3, option 1 has the 3 days for the October break. Option 2 and 3 has the October break down to 2 days with that 1 extra day attached to the December break. It's either at the beginning of it or it's at the end of it. And to be honest with you, whether it's at the beginning or it's at the end is negligible, because of the fact if we use that as a snow day, it would still have to happen before we go to that break, right? So whether it's at the beginning of that or at the end of that, it makes no difference. But again, it is really up to you. And I don't know if it needs to be this painful of a decision, to be quite honest with you. Whatever you feel like your gut is on it, we're going to make it work.
Yeah.
Anna, would you please call the roll? Is that okay, Kathy?
Sure.
Trustee Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
No.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes?
President Babcock. Yes.
This is, wow. Okay.
Did you vote yes or no? I didn't hear you.
Oh, yes.
You did good.
So 3-1.
Okay.
I had
Well,
Ma-
that was
I
a lot
had-
of excitement there.
I had
You
Mary.
wanted very rubber stamper.
I'm sorry,
And I can say,
because I
didn't
figured
vote for
she'd
this.
vote yes. and then it would-
Exactly. No, we have to all consent now.
Well, the next stuff isn't as exciting, but very interesting.
That's right.
This is the approval, of the AP Environmental Science textbook. So the test has changed for the advanced placement class for AP Environmental Science. So it's not as if Ms. Farrell has a plethora of books from which to choose. So she's looked at the books. I trust her expertise in this area. She's actually been trained in AP Environmental Science. She went to the week-long training years ago. She keeps up on it. She does a great job. This is her recommendation. The book has been on display in the district office for over 30 days, so it's now coming to you as action.
So one question I had as a parent of someone who's in this class is, when will this book be implemented? Because right now, apparently there's not a book, or it's
She's using kind of
Difficult.
online resources right now.
yes.
We could purchase it now and get it here within 4 weeks, probably. We could probably get it here before Thanksgiving, to be quite honest with you. So it's something that we could do right now.
Okay. I just know that would be preferred if it's
Mhm.
possible. I don't know, but I didn't talk to the teacher, but from a few
No,
of the
we could do
students
it
I
now.
talked to.
I would encourage us to do it now because it would give her a chance to work with current students
Right.
and actually kind of pilot a lot of it and work the kinks out so that she's ready to go more next year. Also, just so everyone knows, this comes out of restricted lottery money. This is not our base funding. This is restricted money specifically for textbooks, so that's what we're using it for. Several people have asked me, well, what about K-5 science? What about K-5 social studies? Right now, we're trying to shore up all of the books from the middle school and high school that we can, because when we jump into a K-5 social studies adoption or a K-5 science adoption, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, which means there will be no money for anything left. We're going to be looking at that within the next couple of years, so we're really trying to shore up our secondary textbook situation. I know that the middle school social studies department has asked us to look specifically at middle school social studies adoptions because last year we adopted the science. So that's coming up on the radar probably sometime this year if we can get that moving. So that's why you're seeing these little adoptions right now. They're coming through our restricted lottery textbook money. Am I saying that correctly, Wendy?
So I move to approve the adoption of the advanced placement environmental science textbooks.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
It's a little bit unclear to me. In the recommendation, it says use this book or the, so is it black and white? Which ones we're adopting here?
I just took that off. We are adopting
The one that's in the office.
The first one,
Bedford,
the
Freeman,
one
and
that's on
Worth.
display in the office, which is
Bedford, Freeman, and Worth.
Was that the first or the
Is it
second one?
Bedford? Yeah.
the staff at Fort Bragg High School have reviewed the textbooks from Friedland and Rayla and Miller and agreed that the Friedland Rayla texts would be appropriate for the courses in the AP environmental class. So it's the Friedland, Rayla, and Miller book that we are adopting.
Any other discussion?
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
President Babcock,
Yes.
and Trustee Paoli.
Yes.
Okay, 10.3, the English Learner Master Plan.
So thank you, Joanne Farrell and Tina Krenoff, for getting this master plan together. They've been working on it for over a year. Joanne brought it to us, Tina brought it to us in September. Then we brought it to our ELAC meetings and brought it to the DLAC meetings, so the site ELACs. And then we had a DLAC meeting at Dana Gray where we had 2 parents there. They met with Tina. They went over the Spanish version of the EL master plan. They went over it line by line, to be quite honest with you. I went over this with Joanne Farrell, the English version. Irma was the one who translated it for us into Spanish. So this has been looked over. Tina sent this back to me and said there are no revisions necessary. So this gives us, this is what we need to show how we are, the process and procedures we're following for reclassification. It has the forms that we're using for our parents that we're mandated to use through CDE. This is all going to be part of our federal program monitoring this year. So after DLAC approves it, which they just did, then we bring it to the board for you to approve.
I had a question. Where did that vision and mission come from?
That
Since
was-
we've been
I
talking,
kind of liked it. Yeah.
So
it's
this
been
is
kind of a topic.
now. So hot topic is that this is what's in print on the core values page.
Hmm.
Oh, wait a minute.
This
I
is
don't
different.
think
This
so.
is different. This is homegrown.
Yeah, this isn't the same.
Mm-mm. So, yeah, we need to.
Okay.
Because I didn't know if this is the one that came out of the MTSS
Yeah.
group.
Because they're all different.
I mean, I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with it, but because eventually if we do redo the whole thing, we can plug it into all these pieces. But
So
I
can
was
we
just
make?
curious.
Great question. Thank you for looking at that because I missed it. Can you make a motion to approve with the insertion of an updated district and mission statement as it becomes approved later in the year?
Because when does this have to be? This is just your document,
It's-
your
it's
living
gotta be-
document that's,
I need this approved now
right?
so that we can start moving on reclassification. The procedures that we're using, this is what we're using, but I would like to have it on the books that we are using a board-approved EL master plan. If you want to table this and move it to next month and get the appropriate mission vision in there, we can do that too.
I don't think that's necessary. I mean, that's not going to change the.
It's not going to change the meat and
floor.
potatoes of the,
Right.
of the plan.
I was just curious because, you
That's
know,
was my thought too, is that it was
I-
from MTSS.
Yeah, I didn't even, I didn't catch that. I was more concerned with
The
with the
tech.
classification part. Yeah, good catch. Thank you.
and was this, I mean, this was quite extensive. What, is there a shell that comes and then, or did they really?
So Tina and Joanne looked at other districts and started with a template from other districts, looked at what other districts were doing, started with that. What do we do in Fort Bragg? Made sure that what we were doing was in there, looked at the Title III requirements for reclassification, looked at the ELD standards for reclassification, and then made sure all of the necessary components to be federally compliant were in the plan.
It's
Pretty
quite-
comprehensive,
yeah,
and
it's
so
very
it was a lot
comprehensive.
of work. Now, it wasn't, they didn't start from nothing. They started from other schools and templates, so. And a lot of the ELD standards, so.
It just makes me feel better that, you know, it resembles
Yes.
what's supposed to be happening. And
Right.
we're not going to get backlash from. Thank you, Joanne, for leaving a.
A good, nice document.
And I just want to, shout out to Tina Krenoff. She really sat with parents and went over it line by line in Spanish. So thank you, Tina, for your good
Thank
work.
you.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions?
mm-mm.
No, thank you for printing it in Spanish as well.
So do we make a motion to move to approve the English learner master plan and just note that we'll have to, this will be a document that we'll update when we have a district?
Mission and vision,
Mm-hmm.
Second.
is that?
Did you make a motion?
Mm-hmm. And Jerry second. Okay, any discussion?
public.
Any public comment?
We can't record that.
Okay. Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
President Babcock,
Yes.
and Trustee Paoli.
Yes.
And the public comment is theoretically supposed to have been given to Anna.
Ah.
I haven't read the thing. Okay, here we go to 10.4. This is the fun.
This is why we're here, people.
So site comprehensive safety plans, consideration for approval from our 5 sites. And do you want to say anything, or want to just start with all that?
So just so that the public knows, our safety plans are due in March to CDE. They're due on March 1st. So we use a template in document tracking systems, services, sorry, DTS is how I know it. Document tracking services, where they give us the template that is approved by the state. And then we fill in that template. So that's why it looks very similar year to year. It's rolled over every year. And then we go in and we modify the names and who's doing what. There are a couple things in the safety plans when I sat with Lundy to look over hers that we had to address. We approve them in October when we don't need to approve them until March. Why do we do it in October? We do it in October because the year started. It doesn't make sense to any of us to work on a safety plan in March for a current school year when the school year in March is 3/4 of the way done. So we try and have those ready for you in October, that because we're using a template, the safety plan pretty much stays current, and then we update it with our new staff. So that's why the template looks the same year to year, and that's why all the templates look the same from school to school. It is a template.
So generally speaking, since you started 2 safety meetings, was anything incorporated? Because I know you met with officials maybe in the beginning of time, and have you gleaned anything from those meetings where you needed to update your sites?
No, that's like really emergency preparedness about what happens in our community if the bridges go out because we have an 8.0 earthquake. I will tell you that Barry Silva and I are working on, well, Barry's working on it, on meeting with Chief Orsi. I asked him to do that today. And we've talked about it before, and we've talked about this with Chief Orsi before, about having some kind of a meeting. And right now we're leaning towards the days in August, which I know you're not going to be happy with, but the days in August, pulling out an hour to say, okay, if you're on planning and logistics, you're going to go to this meeting at Dana Gray for an hour. If you are on health and first aid, you're going to a meeting at the middle school for an hour. If you are on intelligence and planning, you are going to Redwood for an hour. Because all of us in our safety plans are platooned into one of 4 areas. People know what area they're in, have no idea what it means. Because if we had a true emergency, then they would need to get their little book, turn to the page of where they're assigned, and then figure out what to do. Does that make a whole lot of sense? Not really. So what we're hoping to do is to have a 1-hour training every year to just say, go to the spot that you've been assigned to. We're just going to talk about this for an hour, and if we had a specific training with our local fire department, we would at least have a leg up in what we're doing right now. So that's coming down the pike.
Do you know if the state offers any sort of trainings for school districts specifically? I know with the city, there was all kinds of trainings we would go to that were state, county, it was mostly through the county sponsored.
I can ask Steve Turner about that. He is our contact at MCOE for this.
Okay, because it might be nice to have people come in and,
I'll ask Steve.
you know, we used to do tabletop exercises where we would actually pretend that something was happening, and we'd all like to know what we were doing, but we had no clue. And it was just good practice. So I'm not saying we should need to do that here, but it'd be a good question to ask. And it boosts the confidence in the people that would have roles to play when something happens.
So shall we begin?
We shall.
Alternative education.
Our Or hello, I don't even know if it's on. I am assuming you've all read my safety plan, so I will just ask if you have any questions of me. Page
It's only 28.
on page 32.
So it's not that specific, but because you're first, I have a question, I guess, about all of them. So I'm gonna ask.
Oh my God.
Um,
Yes.
So I noticed that every school has a dress code that they have to adhere to. Younger ones, looks like the younger schools are different than the older schools. Younger kids can wear Dodger hats, but older kids can't. The
Mhm.
question I had is, who develops these dress codes? How often are they changed? And this is, again, these are, I don't mean to pick on you, but you're first.
Oh, sure.
Connie loves the dress code.
Actually, our dress code changes maybe more frequently than other people's dress codes. And some of ours comes down from the gang task force. And because we have red and blue kids on our site, we've had to develop what's okay, what's not okay. And some of that is Dodgers, X4, X3. Those are all that come down from the gang task force. Some of it we, as a staff at our site, have determined that we don't want because it causes friction. But, in general, it's a lot of gang task force stuff.
Okay.
And ours does change depending on what they have said and what we notice of our kids.
Okay. So each site's kind of responsible for their own dress code?
Well, I think, I don't know in general. They may be more. Well, see,
So
there you go.
the sites do work together
Yeah.
for their dress code, because it's not something that it's so drastic from the high school to alt ed to the middle school. The dress
Right.
code always comes up for discussion as the styles change. We have ripped jeans now. We ask that our students have their skin covered from their shoulders to mid-thigh, or it's armpit to mid-thigh. And then if you have straps, that it's at least a 2-inch strap so that your undergarments are not showing. And this becomes a real point of contention with some families. And I will say that I believe our roles is to help foster appropriate dress. And when I say appropriate dress, we are coming to school for learning. And the hard part is that girls feel that they are more targeted than gentlemen. And that's the difficulty, because you've got ripped jeans in the crotch. I'm sorry, we are not going to allow ripped jeans in the crotch to be on campus, okay? And if boys had ripped jeans in the crotch, I would tell the boys, I don't want to see their ripped jeans in the crotch as well. So we have these issues right now, and a lot of our female students are feeling targeted. What I would say to them is that we're talking about appropriate dress so that we can keep the school environment focused on learning. It's nothing more than that. You're in school for 7 hours a day, 7.5 hours. After that 7.5 hours, go out and wear what you want.
The gang stuff is more pronounced probably on our site because we have less kids, and it's, that's where they all kind of congregate. So some of the gang stuff, I think, is uniform, and some of it is what we've, like they can't have their socks up to their long shorts, and they can't. And we have kids that can't wear red or blue, 0 red or blue, because they're on probation. So, some of that is just the nature of the beast at our place.
And I will say that in reviewing the dress codes with the principals, I don't believe there's anything that we are being unreasonable about in our dress code. There is nothing unreasonable in that dress code. And
Right.
I know I had a mom the other day bring in her phone and said, this is what my daughter was wearing, and why was she told she couldn't wear it to school? And I said, well, her undergarments are showing. Well, she's only in the, she's just she's only in the 4th grade. Why is that inappropriate? Because her undergarments are showing, And the mom was incredibly gracious and kind, but she wanted to know. And that's the hard part. I don't believe anything in our dress codes are inappropriate. That could be an opinion, but I will also say it's not a vote.
Right.
We have the dress codes because as administrators, we are the ones that have to maintain that bottom line of keeping the learning environment focused. So
Great. Okay.
our schools are not a democracy.
Right, and I know it came up at middle school site council to try to get more descriptive of what wasn't okay. And so I know in their site or their safety plan, or maybe it was the site plan we were looking at, actually, the safety plan,
Where's the student handbook?
the handbook, that, at any time, anything can be, pulled off the table. It doesn't have to have, if it's not line item, it's just about trying to avoid distracting
And I believe,
clothing.
and I believe there's a line in there that is about
Yeah, full yeah.
anything that,
At their
yeah,
discretion.
at the
At the
discretion
of the site.
And
So that's
you know what? I
clear.
think our administrators are incredibly gracious and forgiving with our kids when something isn't in the dress code. We all try to do our best. No one wants a kid to feel humiliated or embarrassed because they're wearing something inappropriate. That's not it at all. But our dress code is not difficult to interpret. And that's what
Right.
frustrates me. When you're coming to school in a midriff shirt and then you get angry because someone's saying you're not wearing a school appropriate shirt, it's pretty clear in the dress code. When you are wearing a red belt to school that's hanging out and you're wearing a Dodgers hat and someone calls you out on that, it's pretty specific in the dress code. So that's the difficulty that I have with the dress code. I don't believe it's unreasonable. We go to school for 180 days. It's a 7.5-hour school day. It's not difficult to adhere to. If families have trouble getting clothes, every single site has children's fund money, and every single site now has a counselor that can help work with our families. So for the most part, what has been difficult is just being consistent with the dress code so that no one feels like they're being picked on.
And we have kids, I will say, for our site, it may not be for anybody else's, we have had to really spell out things in our dress code. Like, you can't wear your socks pulled all the way up if you're wearing long shorts, because that's a gang task force thing for us. And so we have had kids that say, well, it doesn't say that. Well, you're right, but blah, blah, so it's spelled out very clearly in our dress code, because we have kids that do that, and go, well, what's wrong with that? So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The next one, so the org chart, everyone has their org chart. I think
The
in every,
organizational chart is what he's talking about,
sorry,
right?
in every one, there's 2 boxes in the middle that aren't connected to anyone else. So just for future ones, it may be good to note who they report to.
Oh.
And this is part of the template, I guess. But I noticed that no one in the district or the district office is not a part of any, because they're not on site. I get that. But I guess my question, to you, Becky, would be what role does the district office play?
So every principal at every site reports to me. So let's say, for instance, we have the Big One hits, okay? Barry, Wendy, and I, and if Pilar's in the office, if Barry, Wendy, and I would be the first points. We would be getting in contact with the sites to see what's the status, what does it look like, and then we would deploy the action from there. But we become the hub, and the principals become the organizational leader at their sites.
Right.
If there was something really big, we would be moving Connie over with the Dana Gray side so that we could just keep people together. Redwood would stay put. The reality is, if there is a big something that happens, the majority of the district office, in fact, all of us, would have to go to Redwood and help. High school, middle school kids are capable for the most part, except for our most severely handicapped kids, but we have staff who can help with that. We've also talked about in some of our trainings that if something happens like that, we have to be cognizant of our severely handicapped classrooms because we don't have one-to-one aides in those classes. The district office becomes the hub. We at the district office would have to deploy to Redwood because that's where it would be trickiest. And then it would be administrator to administrator, making sure that they're taking care of their sites until we can get to a point where we get all the kids home with their families, and then anybody who's left, we would keep them together.
Okay.
And I think the 2 empty boxes just don't have
Right, you're right, exactly. I'm just,
I think it's
Right.
And we just enter the name,
Yeah.
and it makes the thing.
It makes it, I don't
Oh,
think
interesting.
yeah.
Right, so that was the only one I had noted, the 2 boxes, the planning,
that's the
intelligence, and the
template.
logistics on
That's the
Redwood
template, yeah.
says that's going to review annually, and there's no names in there, so that kind of concerns me, because if you haven't done it already, how do those
You know,
folks know who they are?
I did Lundy's with her. She had names in it.
Yeah, so this one just says, as assigned and reviewed by staff annually. And those are big jobs.
Okay. I'll make sure that names get in there and you can review it one more time if you'd like before. But this is what I was talking about, operations, planning, intelligence, logistics, finance, administration. Those are the four big buckets that everyone is assigned to one of those four teams, and then having training on those four specific things, so that if you're in this spot, go to this training.
That's
And
a
I will look
great
into to
idea.
see if, what trainings are available through MCOE with Steve Turner.
Okay.
This is what I spoke to Barry about specifically, though, these four areas.
And I only asked about the district because I don't assume you have your own site plan for the district office.
No, we don't.
Okay, because it may be good for the staff that work there to have something written down somewhere where what their role is supposed to be, because something happens, you probably won't be available, you'll be off doing whatever you have to do, and so I don't know if there's a supplemental something that, not for this, I'm not saying to hold anything up here, but just eventually build.
So when we trained with the city at each site, and I think it was last year was it last year? Was it, the district office trained with Redwood. So we actually, at the district office, all have orange vests in our offices. Or are they all in my office? Okay, well,
Everybody's got their own except I have yours.
okay. So, but we all have orange vests at the district office, so that if something happens, we put on our vest and we deploy to Redwood. And that way kiddos know that anybody with an orange vest is a safe person. So we've actually trained with Redwood.
Okay. But it's more like who's, what's Anna's role going to be? If there's the big thing,
Right.
is she going to be the, public information officer? And obviously you'll be the incident commander, and what's Barry going to do, and all that sort of thing.
Which is why we're talking about doing these little 4 buckets in some kind of a training annually. And if we do it annually, I think we could keep it to an hour.
Okay. My next question, in the earthquake section, it talks about a building disaster plan. I didn't know if that was an actual plan.
It's the escape routes.
Okay.
So it's the map of the school, and each classroom has the escape routes posted in the rooms.
Yep.
It's that one back there.
Okay.
It's the same as the fire drill.
And that was another, again, question. If drills actually happen as they're laid out in each plan.
Yeah. They have to happen.
They have to.
That's that. So we have to turn that in, actually.
Okay.
So at the elementary level, it has to be one a month. At the secondary level, it has to be one a semester. And we've talked about at ADCO to have at least one unannounced lockdown drill a semester. But what you say is, okay, staff, we are going to have an unannounced lockdown drill, because we don't want trauma for kids to think that it's real. But we have to be able to train, because like I told you, when Becky Walker was there for Mr. Kale and tripped up the lockdown drill by accident, it was just a button, and I hit the wrong button, initiated a lockdown drill, and what did we learn from that drill? We had 4 classrooms go out and treat it like a fire drill. Okay, so it was a great learning experience. So we talked about at ADCO that at least once a semester we would have an unannounced lockdown drill, and I mean soft. Unannounced. Hey guys, sometime this week there's going to be a lockdown drill. Heads up. But that way we can train on, okay, so what do you do? Do you know the difference of the sounds? Or tell your staff we're going to either have a fire drill or a lockdown drill this week.
Right, they have to figure out which one.
You're right.
And my last question, and thanks for being kind of the one, because you're first.
Anytime.
I assume the safety committees that each site's supposed to have are those people that sign the front page?
That's the site council.
That's the site.
Okay, so, because the site plans don't talk about who's on these committees, but they all exist and have it. Okay,
It's the site councils.
okay, because a
who
lot of times
approve
the site
this.
council, the membership doesn't match the description of the committees that are in each plan. So just look at that.
Well, because the parents wouldn't be on campus when the emergency.
Right.
Mine matches only because I don't have a site council.
That's a good reason. Anyway, just I would look at your whatever's, and either change the safety plan, or change, whatever. That's all, thank you.
Good questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Connie.
Thank you.
Anything else for Connie? Just checking. Any public questions? Mm-hmm.
Hi, Sage Statham. I'm a parent of a couple kids in the district here, also here for an item later. Just going back to Scott's comment on dress code, I know that Alameda School District last year really laxed their dress code way down to, ripped jeans, whatever, it's all fine. And I haven't heard a lot in the last year if there's been any problems with it, but it would be something to look into as, another large district that went another way with it and see how it went. Because I do agree as a parent of 3 daughters that a lot of times the dress code does, apply to the girls more than the boys.
Thank you for the comment.
Absolutely.
I have to tell you that I personally have spoken to some employers in town.
Mhm.
And when we had our career and job fair, one of the things that came up time and again, hey, Becky, you need to encourage your students how to dress for an interview and how to dress at work.
Right.
And it's one of the reasons why we've kept to our dress code.
Mhm.
I 100% appreciate the comments that you are making, because when our young ladies go out to buy clothes, the choices are 100% there for whatever the trends are. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the trends match what we have in print,
Right.
which I think can be difficult and send different messages.
Right.
But please know that has been an ongoing conversation in our town about how our young people are coming into the world of work.
Yep.
And what is appropriate and what is inappropriate.
Sure.
So we try and hold all of that with the best discretion and grace possible,
Mhm.
so that we aren't also sending mixed messages to our kiddos.
Right.
So thank you for the comments.
And I'd also say that I don't think the students think of school the same way they think of a job. I mean, it is a learning experience, but there is a much larger social aspect to school than there is a job. I don't
Agreed.
socialize with my coworkers nearly as much as my children socialize with their peers. So.
Agreed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Erickson is home very sick, so.
Yes. Do you want to do hers really quickly? Do you have any questions on Ms. Erickson? I actually sat with her in my office. Anna can attest to this.
Right.
We sat with our computers together, and we walked through this together, and she had a lot of it done. And
So it was just the page 17 with the 2 no names on our copy, so maybe the wrong document got scanned to us. It just says that it will be, and it's not signed,
Yeah.
exactly.
So is it gone to site council or not gone to site council?
it will go to site council. Her site council they did look at it, but she's new to DTS, and I didn't get this page printed for her to take to her site council meeting, but she did tell me specifically it was shown at site council, it was discussed.
And the map I have doesn't have the arrows for the flow of kids going out of
The-
At the bottom.
the last page.
Mhm.
That's where the beach class ends up, it just doesn't.
The
tell
end,
you
the
what
emergency
it's
line.
covering.
Right.
Yeah.
Which hallway to go down?
I would hope they just go the safest, quickest. Some of them have 2 doors, which may clog up.
And when we did the drill, the drill with Chief Orsi and Chief Lizarraga, that was the big thing at Redwood, talking about you go out the safest door. And then in everybody's red backpacks, there is painter's tape, so that if you are leaving a door, the door is unlocked, and you put a strip of tape to show that everyone is out safely, so that when the next group comes in and they do a check, they put another strip of tape over it so that you have an X. So every door with an X means that it's been checked twice. One time for the person leaving the room, one time for the person doing another safety check. So that if it's a true emergency and we're trying to keep time and move as quickly as possible, every X door means that room was checked. So that's why all of our red backpacks have painter's tape in it.
So how does that work for the double doors? Because if the teacher goes out this way with the class, puts the X, I mean, she can't go, they're not gonna go. Right, but in Redwood.
There are
there's-
2 classroom
there's
doors
2
at Redwood, and so
In
we had
and
talked
out.
about that if they can get to the back door, to put even just a small piece in that window. You
Oh, in
know?
the window, okay. That makes, I was thinking outside, how they're
You'd
gonna
have to
get
go
around, yeah,
around.
go
Yeah.
clear
To
around.
make
No,
sure
no,
it
it would
doesn't
be
tape.
inside, so you're not moving
Gotcha.
twice.
So you could
just-
visually see it.
Yes.
That's checked on that side. That's smart.
But that's something that we need to review annually, which is why I think it's important for us as a district that during those August days, I know we don't have any time, and I'm so sorry, to spend a little bit of time on this so that before we begin the year, every staff member knows, oh, that's why we have the painter's tape, right? That's why we have these things in
Or
our
new
backpack.
staff, since we've had a lot of turnover.
Mhm.
Okay, any questions that Becky might be able to answer for Redwood? Okay. Mr. Kale is on his way.
I'm on my way. I was gonna, great questions, by the way. Every time principals hear dress code, we start to go, oh, man. The biggest change, I mean, really, I just need to ask if there's any questions. The biggest change that we have is one that's been from when we did the meeting, and that's the renumbering of the rooms. You know, that was actually a big chore. But that was suggested by the fire department, because we had this really weird higgly-piggly, you know, room A32, and anyway, it made no sense to me. So now they're like sequentially numbered. But other than that, can I say my one thing about dress code? I have had, I have had amazing community support regarding the dress code, you know? Like, this community wants children to be children, and you know, that's a great thing. Like, and it's okay. It's okay to be 10 years old, and don't worry about middle school.
Comes fast enough.
Okay.
Okay, any questions?
So your plan was dated in May and signed by
Yes.
your folks in May. So
Yeah.
does that mean you reviewed for the fall, like the end of last year with your site council for this coming year?
Yes, the end of last year. And then if you look, the pattern that I was following was the one that's in here. So the site has looked at it. It's actually on, hold on. You're going to test me. On mine, it's on page 17, 17 to 30. So the site, with one of the first things we did in the early days was, you know, review school safety plan with all school staff. So we did that at the beginning of this year.
Gotcha.
So that this was kind of the pattern that I was following. So by the end of this year, we'll have the 2021. plan.
Perfect.
So
And to me, that seems actually to do that at
Makes
the end of
sense.
one year for the, that seems
Yes.
even more.
So you were way in advance.
Yeah. And March just seems
yeah,
crazy.
well, it made sense to me, and anyway, and it goes. I mean, it goes to so many groups: site council, leadership, you know, to the whole staff, to ELAC. So, you know, it makes sense to do it at the end of the year for the next year. So.
Okay, any public questions or comments for Dana Gray? Board? Okay. All right, Fort Bragg Middle School.
Laura Vieira, Fort Bragg Middle School. We did ours this fall, and the reason I was purposeful in a different way than Mr. Kale was, because we have a new vice principal, and the safety plan really does fall on the VP's shoulders. So working with Mr. Chimolino, we went through it together because I was helping him learn how to navigate DTS, which is not always user-friendly. And then also because we've had a big staff change, and with all the new staff, those pre-service days, we do run through the plan so that everybody who's new to the site knows where to go and what to do. Perfect. Questions? Thank you.
I think that's a record, Mr. Kale, I have to say. Not that I don't appreciate it, but I know your colleagues give you a hard time.
Yes, they do.
It's so much fun. Jamie Alexander, Fort Bragg High School. Do you have any questions for me about our plan? I know that I did not submit the signature page yet because we're still going through a site council duking out for who's going to be president. So I'll have that to you very, very soon. But besides that, not too much has changed besides the people who were in charge. We had a little bit of a staff change, so we had some teachers who, one teacher who retired, so we moved another teacher into his place on the little matrix on there. But besides that, it's very, very similar.
so your site council president,
We had a
But-
co-chair.
well, but I mean, everybody's looked at it and
Yes.
everybody's good with it. It's just not officially.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure everyone's looked at it, but everyone's had access to it.
So just for my own educational purposes, for both high schools, or both sites, you can't wear anything that says Los Angeles on it? So Lakers, Clippers,
It's mainly the Dodgers. Am I correct? Yeah.
that's really like the
Dodgers.
Oakland Raiders too?
Dodgers, Raiders.
But not the 49ers?
Nope,
Well,
just those two.
And I will tell you, Scott, when I began in 2008 as the assistant principal at Fort Bragg High School, Mr. Triplett was the principal at Alternative Ed, and I would say that was probably the trickiest time in Fort Bragg's history of where we were with gang violence. And every training that we attended, everything about gang prevention, the first thing that was said, it begins with dress.
yeah.
If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck,
Most likely it's a duck.
And the hard part is trying to teach our kids that, especially when it comes to gang apparel, you're putting yourself out there as this is what my affiliation is. Years ago, when I was a teacher in Fortuna, I took our little 8th grade class to our annual 8th grade trip in San Francisco, and I had 2 8th grade boys who liked to dress that way. And they walked around the mall in San Francisco and they got checked. And luckily, I was within proximity of them, and I had to come and tell these 6'5" gentlemen that these boys were 12 and 13. I mean, they were young, but they were 13-year-old boys, and they were not in a gang, and we were from Fortuna. And I never had a problem with their dress again. But it is a real, it's very real. It's very real, and it means something, and that's why it's part of our dress code, because it means something. It doesn't mean the Dodgers, and in fact, if you have a young person wearing gang paraphernalia that's connected to a sport team, ask them who the pitcher is. Ask them who a pitcher is
Right.
from that team. And one of the things that Mr. Triplett and I can attest to is that back in 2008 when we started and people would come in, our young people would come in wearing the hats a certain way with the sports team, they couldn't tell us a player, they couldn't tell us a stat, they couldn't even tell us when the games happened or when the league even started. So, so that's the issue. It's about keeping our campuses safe
Yeah, no, of
and not
course.
drawing attention to that.
But Redwood and Dana Gray, it's okay if little kid wears a Dodgers shirt.
Believe it or not,
As long
it's
as
way
they don't
different.
wear blue something else or.
Yeah, this is not critical, it's my own
Yeah,
educational
we're blue
question.
and gray already, so there's lots of blue.
Right. Sure.
But that's hasn't really been, so.
Not having, okay.
It's really different when a 3-year-old wears something and a 5-year-old, I mean, it has, because
Sure.
the other kids don't know what it means. At a high school, at a middle school, at an alternative ed, everybody knows most people know what it means. And that's the difference. A 5-year-old doesn't know what it means. We had a 5-year-old kiddo with a Hooters shirt on. Kiddo didn't know what that meant. I mean, but that's the hard part. And so
Since we're talking about this, I just want to give a shout out to the GRIP program that's happening at Dana Gray. My son, we were out of town, and he saw a person in a car with lots of tattoos, and he rattled off exactly what they all meant, and I was quite. He told me where he learned it, and I just want to
Nice.
say that, it was. Those programs make a huge difference for kids, and I think it makes them. I mean, not only was he in, but he was kind of proud that he knew all this stuff that his brother didn't know. But thank you for letting that into our schools, and education is power.
So nothing more for the high school? Okay, groovy.
Thank you. Okay, so that's all. So this is separate from, okay. So if any public question or comment? All righty. I do want to check out this Alameda thing. That will be interesting. see if there's
Follow
any.
them.
Mhm. See what's going on. Okay, any,
So do we make a motion to approve all, and if you don't have signatures, provide signatures or fill in names to job titles? So I make a motion to approve all sites comprehensive safety plans.
Second.
any discussion?
Okay. Trustee Metzen,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
President Babcock,
Yes.
and Trustee Paoli.
Yes.
Okay. 10.5, the discretionary budgets, we've talked a little bit about them. Do you want to come up one at a time, or should we just say if anybody has any questions? Okay. Okay, so it's all 5 sites, same thing. It's online for those at home. It's here for us. It's 25, 20, you want to run through those numbers again? Becky?
Right. Alt-Ed receives $5,000 in discretionary budget. Redwood and Dana Gray both receive $25,000 annually. The middle school receives $30,000, and the high school receives $40,000. And before everybody oohs and ahs, it's really just operational budget. It's things like, do you have enough copy paper? What type of consumable supplies do you have in your classrooms? Because you can't expect that because we buy crayons one year, that those crayons are ready for the next year. It's pencils, it's lots of consumable items. For our science classes, it's a lot of their consumable lab materials. For the math classes, it's a lot of consumable graph paper. You know, there's just lots of things in consumables in our classrooms that our teachers use. Teachers have favorite kinds of construction paper and tissue paper and origami paper and things that they do in their classroom all year. So while it may sound like a lot of money, every principal will tell you right now that they would like double what they have and they would use it. So
And it's based on the number of students at the site, right?
number of students and program. And what I mean by that, the high school program is more expensive to run. If we go straight by ADA, it's not as even Stevens. And the reason for that is the high school and middle school are a little bit more to run because it's departmentalized. So they have more staff, they have more classrooms. Make sense?
I just wanted to make sure,
Yes.
so people don't think it's quite as
I have a
unfair
question
as it sounds.
for the high school. You've got $80,769 of money, and you have $95,966 worth of expenses due to the computer and technology replacement, I'm assuming. Where's that shortfall show up?
Look at my phone here because it's on here. I didn't bring my paper.
It's under their computer replacement and
Yes.
technology replacement. That's their Title VI money.
Yes.
No, I know that, but where's the money come from? A different pot of money somewhere?
Title VI.
Title VI.
Okay, I just didn't show it on here, so that's why.
Yeah, that's a different allocation
That's why.
that each
That's why
site
we put it
gets.
on the bottom.
It's a separate allocation that each site
Okay,
gets. They
that's
just
fine.
happen to include theirs on this.
That's why we put
Sheet.
it on the bottom part.
Mm-hmm.
That's why down there.
And while you're up there, so it looks like you didn't spend any of this money last year, or?
Well, our departments, most of this is departmentalized. And so, like, I think last year, science was saving up to buy some equipment. So that's where the carryover, it looks like they have a lot of money. This year, the math department are buying calculators, which are 100 plus a piece. So they save up. So that's why a lot of the money is carried over from the prior year.
And we've talked about this for years and years since I was a principal, is that the departments hoard.
Yeah.
So they get by and they ask for lots of donations, but the math department, if they're going to buy one class set of graphing calculators, that's $3,200. So what they do is they'll save until they get it. They'll buy one class set, and then they'll save till they get it again, buy another class set. And the hard part is, like with our science department, our science has a lot of money, but our science also has to buy their fetal pigs every year so they can do their dissections, or buy the owl pellets, or, sorry. But that's what happens in biology. So they have to buy a lot of their consumables, and that costs money. Their microscopes, some of their microscopes are still there from when I was there. Well, it's time. Those are not cheap line items. You know, you don't buy a class set of 30 microscopes. You buy them in bulks of 10 if you're lucky. So that's why you see all these big numbers at the high school, and you're thinking, do you guys not spend any money? They do, but in pockets. So they hoard and they save it. And I want to make sure that we've said this to all the principals, that when we have departments who are planning and trying to save that money for something, we want to encourage that. That's good fiscal planning, rather than spending every penny every year and then saying we need, X, Y, and Z. I love that our departments plan, that they say, okay, this is what we want it for. We're going to hold on to it, save this much for next year. So that's why you're seeing it.
And culinary is not in here?
No, they're in CTE, so it's kind of a different pocket as
Okay.
well.
And it doesn't look like a lot for graduation.
No, the district covers a lot of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So when I was principal years ago, and I will tell you that Bruce and I had lively discussions with Wendy Boyce, and Connie was involved in that too, because the cost of the diplomas was actually coming out of the site discretionary budget. And I will still advocate that I do not think that's a fair use of discretionary budget, because they have to be purchased. We've done some things that we've taken away from the site, like the planners. We believe that planners are a huge resource and tool for kids, so the district purchased those. We don't have them come out of the site discretionary. So we have some arm wrestling sometime with the discretionary about what really is appropriate, what's not appropriate, but things like postage. I'm going to always fight that the postage needs to be kept at the site level. Why? Because if you are paying for postage, you think twice about what you're going to mail. Or you say, maybe we can get 2 papers in this mailing. So something like that, I'm going to fight and say we need to keep postage at the site, because you need to be cognizant of what you're mailing and when you want to mail. So those are the little bundles of tidbits that you see within the budgets, like why is this here and this is not. Graduation should be low, because the only real thing that you're paying for with graduation is some, I want to say the programs maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then each site has a discretion to approve, like you approve
leadership and site council.
to actually spend the money.
Or to approve the budget.
Go through the departments, talk about it.
And Connie, let's talk about the diploma covers.
Yes, let's. I'd love to.
Mm-hmm. And so all of this money is the unrestricted lottery money, is that right?
Yes.
And I just had a question on Redwood. There was a couple of abbreviations I didn't know. RISO, is that?
The risograph.
It's one of their copier machines.
Copier machines. And then SIM subs?
That's their
Student intervention meeting.
Okay.
student intervention meeting.
So where we sub when we pull out teachers
Mm-hmm.
to talk about kids, specific kids.
Okay. That was it.
You mentioned Dana Gray had a $25,000. There's
Yes,
37.
because they had carryover.
Oh, it just doesn't show on here. Okay.
So the carryover in their Title VI. So we take the Title VI money that we have every year and we divide it among the sites based on enrollment. And so one of the things that the principals have been using their Title VI money for is to help in the area of technology. We've been able to get short throw projectors for every classroom. So I don't believe any classrooms now don't have one. I think we're there. Okay. So the Title VI money can be used for that. We are really talking as an administrative council about having a specific plan for that money. One of the things that we're noticing right now is that the laptops are starting to kind of peter out. So we're looking at coming up with a plan of, okay, we are going to use our Title VI money and we are going to purchase 8 new laptops every year for staff, so that if you know that every 3rd year you're going to get a new one, then it's not so dire when things start to fall apart. One of the things that we're talking about is, do staff members want to move to Chromebooks? Chromebooks are a little bit sturdier, but a lot of people don't like the small keyboard. And I will tell you, my hands do not like a Chromebook keyboard. But if you do like the mobility of a Chromebook, then that's something that we could also look at with our staff as well, saying, okay, well, let's make the transition to a Chromebook. We're using our Title VI money to do some of that maintenance so that we are not stuck as a district with replacing 125 computers all at the same time because they've all died at the same time. So we're trying to have a very systematic approach. That's why the sites are in charge of their Title VI money.
Okay, anything else? Public? Okay.
I move to approve the discretionary budget for each site.
Second.
Any discussion?
Trustee Schneider,
Yes?
President Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Paoli,
Yes.
and Trustee Metzen.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll pause for a moment. I know we have somebody that needs to drive to Willits, so if the principals would like to.
Or have dinner.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the work you do. Okay, so Wendy, I don't know if you need to prep anything, but you're up. I mean, you could wait a, but. Okay, so
Okay.
moving on to unaudited actuals.
So part of the growing pains with the shift to escape is that there were a number of unforeseen things that happened at the end of the year. The county made some entries between funds after cash closed, and that makes it so that what our books say are in certain funds don't match what the county treasurer's office says are in certain funds. What needs to happen is you need to book it to a due to or due from. So there were a few of those that happened to throw the cash off, and then the system somehow allowed one-sided entries to where part of an entry ended up happening correctly before the close of cash and part of it landed after the close of cash. So we had to correct those things. I don't think there was any adjustment to any revenue or expense item. I think it was strictly moving between cash and due to, due from, between things. But because anything changed, you have to reapprove the form that's actually going to the state for those items. So, I mean, part of the growing pains are such that things haven't been rolled yet. We're still waiting for, you know, the official physical close of the books, which is why you don't have any budget to actuals this month, is because we don't have the beginning balances rolled in yet. We have to wait for the county to do that. So this is only because some of the balance sheet numbers were shifted around, and so you have to reapprove what actually goes to the state.
And so this, we submitted in advance so that the timing, so that they are able to review, and we normally don't ever get it back. But since
Right.
it went a little wonky with the new program.
Yeah, when we have to have it to the county is actually ahead of when the county has to approve it and send it to the state anyway.
Okay, so we've got plenty of
So
time,
it's-
and this is
Yeah.
built in so that if something, a hiccup happens, and this is a big hiccup.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Public? Okay.
Make a motion, we approve the unaudited actuals.
I will second.
Any discussion?
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
President Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Metzen,
Yes.
Trustee Paoli.
Yes.
Okay, 10.7, the Redwood Coast Senior Center window replacement. So we did the roof, now we're on the
So,
windows.
just so you know, Jill is really working hard and is on top of it. My understanding is that the senior center received money as donations to get this stuff fixed. And so anything over $5,000 has to be approved by the board. This is necessary, and she's trying to do it before the rains come.
That was my question, is, you know, what are their means of obtaining revenue?
No,
It's
they
truly out of
they-
donations, which
they
is
received,
so amazing.
I think they received a big donation, and we can ask Jill that. She was telling me about it, and she said, look, we have the money.
We want to know their fundraising ideas.
No, I think someone left it to them.
Yeah.
I think it was
Wonderful.
left to them.
That's wonderful.
But she's trying to get the new windows in before the rains come. And what I appreciated about this is that she assured us that the windows would look like the middle school windows so that we could keep the flow. It wouldn't be, hot pink and,
They're the same brand, so they should be able to match
yes,
them.
they're pretty close.
I
So are
think
they
we should
s-
have the senior center move into Alta Ed for a while.
Yeah, let him fix it up.
So are they dual pane or single pane?
They have to be dual plane.
Can you
Yeah.
even buy
Well, I
single
don't know,
pane
'cause some of them I thought were, I guess they've all been remodeled, because some of them used to be a single, but that's great.
Well, I don't even think you can buy singles.
Sing anymore.
Only in
I
California.
moved to, well, I guess you need to.
Any more questions?
Looks good to me.
I moved to approve the Redwood Coast Senior Center window replacement project.
Second.
Any discussion? Public?
Trustee Metzen,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
President Babcock,
Yes.
and Trustee Paoli.
Yes.
And I know it's for the benefit of the senior center, but I just want to thank them for doing improvements essentially to our property. So it will just improve the scape of the neighborhood. So thank you. Okay, 10.8, MCN antenna at the Redwood Coast Senior Center. So Sage, if you want to join us, and Becky, do.
Well, we gave Ari two options. We said, Ari, you can come to the meeting and talk to the board in person. Which is why Sage is giggling, because Ari lives far, far away. So he gave us a pretty thorough, comprehensive report. I appreciated all the detail that he added into this. And I appreciated his term limit of 3 years to say we should look at this again and revisit it. The nice thing is that Sage is pretty easy to work with. He's right down the road. So this is, I believe this is reasonable and a good plan, and I think you and Ari work well together, so
Yes, absolutely.
I wasn't too worried about it.
Yeah, and actually the proposal that we have to the senior is actually for a initial 3-year term and then renewed year to year after that. So it's one of those. We're not asking for a 10-year. We're not asking to the end of their 99-year lease for sure.
I'm sure technology will change
Yeah.
quite a bit between now and
And
then.
you've seen the letter that Ari, and you're good with all the terms and.
Well, this was slightly different than we discussed last time, so I wanted to kind of bring us all back, make sure we were all on the same page. Because when I was here last month, really we've been working with the senior center to enter an agreement with them, and part of that, their lease requires them to get permission from you. So after talking to Ari about, I believe Mr. Schneider asked last time, well, is there any benefit that the district could get from this agreement as well? Ari and I went over all the products that MCN currently offers, the different things the district is doing right now. And we found that for the most part, you guys are fairly self-sustaining, and it sounds like he's got a really good handle on the stuff that you're doing. So most of the stuff that we're offering is not necessarily stuff that would benefit you. So it's not that there's anything wrong with what we have. You guys are just doing great on your own. So that's a good thing for you, for sure. And then his recommendation came in slightly different than we talked about last month, and I want to clarify because our initial question to you was, hey, we would like to enter into this agreement with the senior center to provide them with internet service for using their roof, which they of course have to then get permission for you. And then this was actually recommending and to enter into the MOU to provide service to you. So in some ways, this is, at this point, it's kind of double dipping for us. It's asking for us to provide services to the district and to the senior center for one roof. So it wasn't clear to me if, if we want to explore this further of, because it may be that maybe there's a roof at the high school that we might want to use, or, we haven't, right now there's not, but we just haven't looked around and said, hey, this is what it'd be. Or if we were to be providing, service directly to the district, well then could we get on top of Continental Auditorium's roof instead of the senior center, because that extra 15 feet actually makes a big difference for us, So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page and agreeing to the same things. So I will now send that back to you guys to see what you're actually looking for and what we're looking for.
So I think in some of the discussion that was last meeting was trying to find exactly what, how we could benefit, because the senior center isn't us.
Correct.
So I don't know, it makes me, I appreciate the meeting that you guys had. But the phone service, we were just wondering if there's anything with the phone.
We did, Ari and I
sense
did
of-
discuss the phone service specifically, and it was something that he didn't feel that at this time you needed anything that we had to offer. But it was one of those that he said, a couple years down the road, he may come back and say, hey, we actually would like to talk about this now. But as of today, this year, next year, he didn't feel that that was necessary.
And I will concur with that, because Ari and I did have that discussion as well.
So then is MCN willing to provide the backup failover source as well as internet to the senior center, or is that too much?
It's not, at the end of the day, it's not too much from the perspective of, I don't want to delay another month on these. I'm would really like to move with this project, and this is one of our potential locations we have 3 different locations that we're looking at for a fiber source. If we were not looking at this for a fiber source, I would say, hey, let's, maybe yes, maybe no, but because it is a more important site to us, potentially, it's one of 3 that we're looking at, then I'd say that, that it is possible that we'd be interested in doing that. We're also talking with the Skunk Train, because they've got a 50-foot communications tower on the side of their building, which is very tall, just like Cotton Auditorium is really tall. And we're just going back and forth with our lawyers, their lawyers. You understand how that goes. But either way, the project to us has delayed a little bit longer than we like, so we are a little bit of self-arm twisting, where if you really want both of it, we would probably give it to you, but it's one of those, I did want to present it as, the original request was, we want to provide this benefit to the senior center, and it is a little bit of an arm twist to provide to both. Not that we're unwilling to, like I said, it's just asking for, using the senior center and providing it to both. And in honesty, providing the backup bandwidth to you is more of in an emergency if something happens. So there's not really like an ongoing cost or an expense to us, which is why I'm more willing to be like, yeah, sure, in an emergency, let's make sure you have something set up and ready to go.
And that was my understanding. It was not ongoing. It was
absolutely. It's
an emergency backup.
That's correct.
Only.
Correct.
So it was going to be a just-in-case backup plan. There's nothing ongoing, nothing that we would be using on a day-to-day basis.
Correct. But since this was different than what we discussed last time, then I figure I might want to mention that extra 15 feet on Cotton Auditorium, we'd be interested in that as well. So, and it is, the roofs are actually connected. It goes from the senior center, across the hallway and directly up to the roof. We wouldn't, we could run externally all the way up there without much problem. So. And Ari sent me a video from the top of the roof, which was, you're going to have to put a little bit of that on Ari, because he did send me the view from up there.
Well, and Ari went on top of the roof to see what we could do, what the skyline looked like from Cotton to Redwood.
Correct.
And what Redwood looked like from Redwood to the high school. Because once we get it to the high school, Dana Gray's covered. And it's really connecting Middle to Redwood. I mean, that's the triangle. And so that's why Ari was crawling around on the roofs.
And is there sight?
There's a nice little line of sight.
There's a nice line of sight. The problem is there's no fiber going to the, JD in high school and Dana Gray, are all hooked up, and then I think Redwood and the DO, but the middle school's kind of out in its own little island out there, and so he's trying to create line of sight signals so that he can do it and pick up the bandwidth that they can have available to them.
And it's one of those that our wireless links through town are not going to be, we're not interested in going from the middle school straight up to that way. We're going to be going down to here, up to, we have agreements in place with like the Paul Bunyan Thrift Store on Main Street already, another location on Chestnut Street near Quarry Street, that we would actually be able to, have a signal going, a secondary route as well, if we were to, you put equipment onto, one of the other sites, so that we could act as a backup to that wireless link as well, and we did discuss that a little bit. I suggested that to Ari. I don't know, Ari's very happy with where you guys are. I'm just trying to put stuff out there as here's things that we can do.
So the reason why this whole backup came into being is because we went without internet through the county for a couple of days, because I don't even know how to describe it.
It was an equipment failure because Mendocino was out at the same time, so it was an equipment failure on the county county router.
And so that's why he's crawling around the roofs, thinking, okay, well, how can we create this backup,
a diverse route from the source,
so that if the county goes down, we're not all done.
Right.
So that's where that discussion came from, and Ari's our IT director, so we know what his focus is. And
Well, I think having the backup would be really valuable should an emergency come. I don't know if there's a difference feeling with everyone about the senior center versus the auditorium.
And Sage, how it was reported to me was that the backup was going to be part of it. So when you talk about arm twisting, I want to apologize for twisting your arm. This is how it was presented to us, and having the discussion with Ari about, okay, do we do this? Do we not do this?
Sure. And like I said, it's a minor arm twist.
Okay, so, and I'm just letting you know that's how it's being presented to the board.
Right.
So if we want to do something different.
And I didn't see Ari's letter until the board packet came out, 2 days ago. So it was one of those that,
So I apologize for any miscommunication. If we want to amend this in any way, then it has to go. Actually, I'm not going to say it. If you want to amend this anyway, that's totally up to you. I would say that I asked Ari for this report. This is what he gave me. This is what I understood.
So I think I'm comfortable following the letter of this letter. In any alterations, I think I'd like Ari's input.
Right, I
Okay.
agree.
So then, Sage, what you just heard was they're comfortable with this. If you want any any kind of alterations to this, and we want it to go back to Ari, then it would be another month.
Right. So what I would love to do is go ahead and move forward with this, but come back to you guys 3-6 months from now and talk about other things, about other sites.
And I also want to, I like the 3-year, but I also, if for some reason it goes up and it's interfering with our equipment, or we're getting a whole bunch of backlash, we want to be able to pull the plug.
Yeah, so Ari and I have already looked at the type of equipment you guys are using to make sure that there would be no conflicts on that level. Yeah, of course, if you're facing backlash, I understand that. We can find where it really comes down to us is if we order fiber there, we're going to have a 2-year contract that we're locked into. So we don't, and that's $2,500 a month for 24 months is a big chunk of change to not be able to use the site. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those that there's once that's in place, the test gear that we've used to send a signal to them has been up for over a year without anybody having any problems with it. I was here last month with our 3 YouTube viewers as well, and I haven't heard any calls since then.
And Ari was climbing around up there, so nobody said anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's stuff up there. I don't think anybody's going to notice another.
Right.
But
and again, for the discussion down the road of like on top of the Cotton Auditorium roof, if we are back on the roof, you can't see it from street level anyways, because it's so tall, unless you're way down the road, and then you can't really tell what it is anyways. But again, that would be a discussion that I could, if we want to stick to the letter of this, I'm okay with that, and then we could, I'd like to come back later to talk about, other possibilities. I'd rather get this moving so that I can, have one less headache, and then.
So do you have sample MOUs, Sage? That
not on me, but I'm sure that we've got MOUs. We use the same lawyers. I'm sure we've got something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the board, or any further questions? Any public? Okay.
So I'll make a, right, you want to approve, a motion to approve entering into MOU following the guidelines as presented in Ari's letter.
A second?
Any discussion?
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes?
President Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Paoli.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Ed.
spending
Thank you.
several hours with us.
Thank you, Sage.
Put some ice on that shoulder.
All right, 10.9 is the change in alternative designee representing FBUSD for the Mendo Lake Adult Career Education Consortium funded through the Adult Education Block Grant.
Yes, and this is just one of those legal things we have to have, and we have to show that we've had it board approved. So here you are.
Well, then, I will make a motion to approve item number 10.9, change in alternate designee Mendocino Lake Adult Career Education Consortium.
Thank you.
I'll second.
And any discussion?
President Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider.
Yes?
Okay. 10.10, intern permits for certificated, certificated staff. So we have one. We just have to keep,
We have the ones at the
Reporting?
top. Yeah.
It's just the one that needs approval. The other 2, 3 don't actually need approval
Oh.
for that type of permit.
Well, right, the GLABs and the TIPSLs
Yeah.
don't. Oh, so it's just, I gotcha.
Mhm.
Yes.
What does
Yes.
yellow mean?
Yeah.
Yellow?
Yellow. On page 2.
in the right-hand column.
That's either
Right.
pending evaluation or yellow.
Sent.
That was my
Or
question.
resigned, or
Or
site
resigned.
copy, or whatever, but
Good question.
Because there was also some other.
you still got her.
I think it was
It's probably
highlighted yellow.
Either that or she's referring to the PAF form having been done.
Pending evaluation.
No,
That was my question too, Jerry.
The personal action
forms that
form?
we send around the office to make sure everybody gets information about people is yellow. And so I think that's her designation that the yellow form's been sent around,
Ah.
is my guess.
It's a good guess.
So
Those
that's
are
not-
internal notes.
Yeah, so it's not
Yeah,
something,
but
nothing
that's
for the
what color
state.
that page is yellow, so we don't even call it a action form, we
So
call it the yellow.
We're just looking at
You
the
brought
first
that
one?
up in that email.
Yeah.
It's only that first person, the,
Having my.
So the middle, I know this is, Diana's brought this up, the two counselors, do we need to approve theoretically that those two got switched?
I don't think it matters, to be quite honest with
Okay.
you, but you can, if you'd like, it can be noted in the notes.
I think
I
they were.
think that was last
approved,
month, I
yeah,
think that was on the personal
on a
action
personal
form.
action.
Yeah, we're
yeah.
just
Our
on the
action.
floor on top.
This is just a list of
Okay,
the
because
permits
I've noticed
that have
it
been
before, I
approved.
didn't,
Right.
I don't think it matters.
So the
but-
switch has been approved on a personal action report.
Right.
This
It
is
just
a
seems
list
weird
of
that it
interns.
stays,
Okay.
like,
This
is
really has
internal?
more information than you need. You
Right.
needed the first name on there, and it's got the whole list of all the interns, and really just the one is the one that you're
so we really didn't
acting
need to
on
see,
tonight.
keep seeing the
No,
other
you
stuff.
didn't see the yellow, didn't need the yellow.
Well, even all the other months, so we should
Right.
maybe get it so that it's just current and not have
Yes,
it, and she could keep
Susie's-
her own running
She's been
total.
trying to keep
running
it in
record.
front of you so that when she reports in or when she's checked up upon on what she's done, then she can say this went to the board, blah, blah, blah.
Right,
And it's continually being updated
Building.
rather than just new.
gotcha. Okay. So it's not an issue.
Okay, so
So-
we're approving one and sending that off to
Yes.
CDC.
So I move to approve interim permit for one staff certificated.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Public? Anna?
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes?
President Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Paoli.
Yes.
Do we want a stretch break? before we go to information?
I think that'd be good, a really good idea.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break to come back to information and discussion section.
Later with the short evenings.
Right, I know.
No. Well, he said he was going to do it.
Okay, we're back from break. We are moving on to some fun stuff here.
Not that the rest of it wasn't fun.
Okay, so the first thing is the 11.1, our bond survey follow-up.
So this week, we need to work with Greg Isom. I have just not been able to connect with him, to be quite honest with you. But we need to hold our stakeholder meeting, and there's some discussion on who that is with the stakeholders. So Greg and I are playing phone tag. I called him and said, hey, there was emails that went back and forth. So then he left me a message, and it just hasn't happened. So that's going to be one of my focus this week. So then I will email the board to give you an informational kind of update on that. Our goal will be to have that meeting prior to the November meeting so that we can give you kind of a pulse, a temperature of what's felt.
And do we need to be there or no?
If we do a stakeholder meeting, I think that right now what you should talk about as a board is 2 of you coming so that our community can ask you questions.
My suspicion is it would depend on when it was. I mean,
Okay.
is that,
Right.
so once they
I
get the
agree.
date, then we'll see who's
Yeah.
available, or is there anybody that just really wants to be there?
Well, I would think if you were available, you would be the first.
You get the first right
Yes.
of refusal.
That's because you hold the crown.
Yes. And then we
It's
can go
tipping
down
pretty
from
far
there.
this week. Okay, okay.
Are we
we'll
still
just-
on time though? I mean, we're still
Mhm.
On
hoping to
track.
work out a resolution for November.
And the other thing is we have a special board meeting in November where we are going to do the benchmarks. And what else are we
And-
doing at that meeting?
CASP.
In CASP. So we have a special meeting in November so that if we don't get it done at the regular board meeting and you want that to be a discussion, we can move it to action on the special. So we have 2 opportunities before December.
And that might, I mean, well, I guess we're not really discussing anything, so I was gonna say it might be nice for them, never mind.
What's the date of that special board meeting in November?
21st. I will not be there. Just
20 what?
21, yeah.
I'll be out of town.
Let's say Wednesday?
Thursday?
No, it's a
This Thursday?
Thursday.
Okay.
Does everybody think they can be there since we, well, I mean, I got,
It's not-
right. I just want to make sure that we're
We'll
not
have a
going to have,
quorum, yeah.
right. We're not going to need to reschedule. Lord help us. Okay. All right, so we'll get some more information from that, and then it'll definitely be on November. One of the 2. Or the report out from the meeting will be on November.
14th.
Right,
Right.
not,
But
the
the rest-
meeting's going to happen, the stakeholder meeting will happen, sorry. The stakeholder meeting will happen before the November meeting.
Yes.
The report will be coming, okay. Sorry, okay. Any other questions or comments leading up to that meeting for Becky? Okay. All right, 11, public? Okay. 11.2, teacher selection.
So we are going to keep this on the board agenda for a while so that folks know that we are talking about it. This again goes back to teacher, who do you want as a teacher for your child for the following year? Once we hit middle school, it's not an option. There's no more selection to be done. It is what it is. But in K-5, we've had the practice that parents can choose up to 3. So I am just advocating to you as a board that we eliminate that practice. I would like to bring a sample form to you at the November meeting to let you look at what my ideas are on what parents can do. What attributes would you like your child's teacher to have? What are the attributes of your child that the future teacher should know about? Kind of those things that could help us choose the best fit in a K-5 situation. So I'll have a form for you at the next meeting to look at. It's still going to be discussion. And then what I'm hoping is either in December or January, we'll tease that form out, what you like, what you don't like, and then we'll bring that form to action on how we do teacher selection process. But right now, some people know this is, pardon?
Because we think it's, or did you do the research on it?
We do have a policy, and parents really are asked to give input, but they do not have any sort of say or sway over who they are allocated as a teacher. But of course, you know, they're parents and they know their child best. But the policy is that it's all school decided. And allocated.
And so what I'm hoping to bring to you is a form to just say, this is what we're going to do. What
Right.
we are going to do is we're going to give parents the option to list attributes of a teacher that they feel would be best to work with their child, attributes of their child that they feel like a teacher needs to be cognizant of, and then those input forms are brought to the administration at Redwood and Dana Gray, and they choose who the teachers are, and no more, well, these were my top 3 picks.
So they won't have the names on the sheets anymore, if that's the way it goes. And so when it was on last month, I thought that it was something about how you hire.
No.
You know, so I think that maybe the title should change. I don't know. We call it, I think as a parent perspective, it's like teacher choice process or teacher, maybe look at some of the forms to know the language, because that looked more administrative when I first read it. So maybe why we're not hearing anything. Well, we didn't hear anything about it. Maybe it's because people really think it's more of something that you're doing behind the scene to hire a teacher.
And let's not try and be savvy about it. Let's be really
Blunt. Elementary teacher choice.
K-5, parent.
Teacher choice.
Parent teacher choice.
Or in the background, maybe even
or
say,
teacher choice for parents.
Yeah.
You know,
Right,
I mean,
be
just
really
something
clear.
really specific.
Because I looked at it and thought, oh, that's this. I'd like to hear about this.
And I think in the background, being a little more specific on what the practice has been and what we're proposing it to be. Not too much detail, but
right.
But enough so that people know what we're talking about.
Well, trigger words for parents go, whoa, wait a minute.
Yep. You know, we can say, well, look, it's been,
That would be a great board chat topic if any parents
that
were
would be
interested in
fabulous.
coming in the morning.
Did you have? Well, we can
yeah.
talk about that.
We'll get to it. Anyone show up today?
One.
It was very exciting. It was a good, lively
I know,
conversation.
it's really fun. Anyone doesn't want to take their day.
Okay. So nobody caught on from last meeting and emailed you or called you?
No,
or
but I
anything?
did bring it up with Redwood and Dana Gray that this is a discussion that we're having. I brought it up at the staff meetings because it's something we really have to consider. We do have lots of movement. We have teachers moving from site to site. Parents are feeling that they're not getting their voice heard when they're not getting their teacher, but their teacher moved to Dana Gray. You were actually put in that teacher's room, and the reason you didn't get any of your 3 choices because we put you in that teacher's room, so when we plugged in a new teacher, you got the new teacher.
Right. Well, anyway, welcome one viewer. Next Thursday before the board meeting, we will be at the district office conference room with wonderful goodies and coffee. I bring that every time.
It's pretty impressive.
No takers. Diana wasn't there to drink some coffee today. So it's one board member, Mrs. Walker, and myself. And I have to say that it really should probably be changed to superintendent coffee hour because we haven't really done much talking, but really some good, robust conversation. Becky's been great to have there. Thank you. I know it's an hour of your day, so thank you for being there too.
It's a fun hour.
Okay, we're moving on to board policy. And just before we start this one, Anna, I didn't email you because it slipped my mind after any. We need to update that policy, the location.
I updated it, but I did not include it, and that was my oversight. It's sitting there waiting. So.
Okay. I forgot to
Yeah, no,
catch it, sorry. Or I didn't catch it till too late. Okay. Alrighty, gang. So we're on February. These were the ones that went back to ADCO to be reviewed, and then now they're to us. So we normally, unless anybody has a different idea, if we just kind of go, if you want to go through them, there are several options on a lot of these. Does that seem
Page
status
12.
quo?
Page 12 is the first one.
Right.
Well,
Are you looking up, are you trying to find page 12?
no, I'm looking at page 2. Well, page 1, right after at the bottom where it says students shall be identified for retention on the basis of and the following additional indicators of academic achievement.
Oh, and then there's no additional.
There's no
indicators.
additional. So I think what needs to be put in there.
Isn't the next paragraph? Or so student between grades 2 and 3 and grades 3 and 4.
Well, I think that space is an open space if there are district benchmark assessments, if there are internal assessments.
Oh.
Because it's minimum levels of proficiencies as indicated by grades and the following additional indicators of academic achievement. So we can just eliminate those lines and leave it to be what's in the policy for grades, student assessment. Because, yeah, I would just eliminate those lines. Are you okay with that?
Well, we need to take out the following and just put and additional indicators of academic achievement, right? Because if we're not listing any, then we wouldn't put following.
Yes.
The paragraphs after though are
Why does it
following
say
that.
page 12?
I have it in front of me. Do you need that?
Thank you.
First one, page 12.
So we'll get rid of the words, the following, and just, and additional indicators, so that it's up at the top, it's 5121, 6162, 6162.51. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then moving to page 5, it's a new law, and that's pretty standard, and you said that the next option was on 12?
I think so.
That's the
11
one
or
I have.
12.
iPad's trying to update.
Yeah, and mine is bugging
It's an
out.
optional policy that we already had in place. So
Right, but there's an optional paragraph, isn't there, on page
Mhm.
12?
There's optional policy.
it's an
Oh.
optional
Language.
policy and you already have the policy.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, optional, sorry. That's what happens when you do this one. Like Diana said a week ago.
Yeah.
There's pluses and minuses. Okay. All right, so we're skipping that one. I had nothing in math placement. Anybody?
Well, I had a question about the language. It says somewhere in here that it starts no later than 7th grade.
Which we do have in 7th grade now.
Do we?
Instruction in world languages shall be offered to secondary students beginning no later than 7th grade and shall be designed to develop student skill in understanding, speaking, reading, and writing the language.
Okay.
So we offer world languages beginning in 7th grade.
Okay.
It is not mandatory. It is optional. Students in the 6th grade take a world cultures class at the middle school, where we begin looking at different cultures of the world to help them get ready for a language class the following year. That world cultures class is, I want to say, a 9-week wheel, either 9 or 6 weeks.
It's 9. There
Is it
was an
9?
issue with.
So after 9 weeks, then the kids switch. They only take the world cultures class once.
And then 7th grade is
Right.
Spanish.
So our Spanish program at Fort Bragg Middle School, 7th grade is the first semester of Spanish 1. 8th grade is the second semester of Spanish 1. If they complete both of those successfully, they go into Spanish 2 as a freshman. Some kids are not ready for Spanish 2 and they repeat Spanish 1 at the high school. We try and keep those classes a little bit different because we are taking that 1 year of 9th grade Spanish over 2 years, 7th and 8th grade. So we try and keep it a little more lively for the kids so that they have a different experience if they retake Spanish 1 again. But Ms. Gray does a wonderful job of preparing them. So we had lots of kiddos in Spanish 2 as freshmen.
I didn't realize that Spanish 1 was split between 7th and 8th grade.
We actually were doing Spanish 1 as a full year in 8th grade, and kids weren't ready for the rigor. And part of the issue was that the middle school has 45-minute class periods on regular days, and then on the block days, it's 85 minutes. So it wasn't the same amount of time that the high school has for their program. So rather than having the teacher push at a pace that we were losing kids, we split it over 2 years so that kids had the opportunity to still come in during their 8th grade year and take that second semester and go. And then moving on, we've got language continues, there's not many changes in that, it is a new law. Civics education is an optional policy.
Which we already have.
Yay.
Page 18, is that where you're at?
Yeah.
Yeah, 17. There's an optional paragraph on page 19 that we did not have before, to do with having voter registration materials at high school. And I think the high school staff read this and they say that we already do this.
Yeah, I didn't see anything,
Yeah.
because I heard when we went to the League of Women Voters, she was talking about, and I
Yeah.
think that's what's in there.
Right, so that actually is already happening, so it was not an issue with high school staff.
So they come and register voters on site?
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I keep forgetting all these mays in here, because it made me a little nervous when it said appoint one or more students, because I know Mr. Brown's kind of the
Yeah.
step, but anyway, it says may, so then I
Mhm.
felt a little, I just don't want to add things that people have to do, that I don't want to say we're going to do it if we don't, and that's just another thing for somebody to have to keep track of.
And that's the hard part about all these policies. You know, I spoke to someone from CDE and she said, what's your policy on this? And I said, oh my goodness, let me go and look. You know, I didn't know the policy existed, but it says all these things that we're supposed to do. And I said, okay, I'll put this on my calendar. But we have thousands of policies.
And you can't remember them all.
No.
You have to reference them. So 22, science instruction.
So I believe
have
with the science
23.
instruction, the high school and the middle school are up to date with this because of the new textbook adoptions that we have done.
There is an optional paragraph on 23 to be revised to reflect. It says may be modified.
And again, the high school and middle school staff did see this and they did not say, that's not how we do it, this is not what's happening. So.
Okay.
There's actually 3 on page 23.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I did have a question about this one, and that's what I emailed Becky about. It says, and I reread it, it says 2 years of math.
So this is our board policy for high school graduation, and this is what the minimum state requirements are. We need to change that to 3 because
Yeah.
our requirement.
Right. And our current policy does say 3. The green 2 courses in math is their suggestion. Currently it says 3 courses in mathematics. So we can keep that the same to reflect how we really do it.
Right, and I think I think it's CSUs are deciding, they're almost wanting to put it to 4 years.
It
So it'll
needs to be.
It's going to be changing.
Tell every
but-
kid,
Mhm.
anyway.
Every year.
So our current policy
It's
reads
my other half.
4 courses in English, 3 courses in math, and I think it's 2 in science.
And the reason why this
2 in
change came
science.
through, it says because on the paragraph right below that, 2 courses in math, is that they're looking at the completion of some of this happening in the 8th grade. But for us,
Well, but we still put it on our
we still do.
algebra still goes
Uh-huh.
on their transcript.
And it doesn't count as their third year.
Right. And then
I'm not sure.
the,
Did you guys move to the next one?
we're on high
Yes.
school graduation.
Okay.
And then the other thing is down at the, where it's other requirements,
25.
is freshman seminar specifically. Now,
It's
the
page
infotech thing,
26.
I mean, should we have that
Where-
in?
What page are you on?
I didn't read the page, it's at the end of this, so it said other requirements, so it must be on after the 4 years.
Is it after retroactive diplomas?
Oh, right here, on the bottom of 26. So it says in yellow, the board may prescribe additional coursework, health, blah, 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 blah. And so we have, right, freshman seminar, and then the senior project.
It's page 26.
I know we don't want to
See
list
it?
that out because
Mhm.
it's
Page
changed, but
26.
Oh,
So
do kids have to pass
So at the
freshman
very-
seminar and
Big
have
block
to do the senior?
How about the one at the
There
top?
you go.
If they're from Fort Bragg.
We
High
already
School.
went through
And
this
even
one?
Noyo High
Yeah.
School has,
They said that it needs to change to be 3 years.
Noyo
Okay.
High School has a senior
There you
project.
go, right there.
Lighthouse has a senior project. They have computers and health. They don't necessarily have freshman seminar.
And that is, those items are items 7, 8, and 9, which are red lined out, which is with the, so if that's what needs to stay, then we just reject that suggestion.
Well, infotech is now, and health is now
Yeah.
freshman seminar.
What I would say for number 7 is change it to freshman seminar, in parentheses, technology and health.
So that would cover both schools
Yeah.
and independent or the independent study kids too.
And then I would keep the senior project in.
And the 60 elective credits?
I would say something like the remainder elective credits. Well, how, because we have a 220, because see, the elective credits are kind of different, because, do you want to keep that in there?
Well, it's on there, that's on the bottom of the thing that they have to fill all those. I mean, freshman seminar, it doesn't, it counts as a separate thing, or it used to. Not, it was on that, you know, the box in the corner?
Yeah, uh-huh.
It was health infotech, I mean,
Should I make the changes as you've suggested and then send it to the high school staff?
Make sure it
to
matches the
make sure that they-
transcript.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have Markington listen to it. Thank you.
just frame of my paradigm, sorry. But I was worried that if we left what ed code says, which I know the minimum is 2, that
Well, that's
somebody
gonna
could
become
come,
a battle. Oh, heck
right,
yeah.
somebody could find this and say my kid only has to take 2.
And I will tell you that there is legislation for our foster homeless youth, our kids who unfortunately get bounced around from home to home, that if they come to us,
An exemption.
they can be exempted to just the minimum California requirement, which would be the 2 years of math.
I read that somewhere
Mhm.
over the.
Yeah.
And we've only had to do that since I've been an administrator, that I know of, we've done it twice. But it was great to have that option there for those 2 individuals, so. Okay, anything else there?
Let's see, 1 to on page,
Some stuff about honorary diplomas.
Right.
What's that?
and on
What
page
is that?
28,
Page
there's something about 1 to 3 below are optional and may be revisited. I think this is about kids moving around.
Right, departed from California.
Yeah.
And it seems that 1 to 3 are pretty innocuous. And then the next one is about honorary diplomas for international exchange students or terminally ill students.
Which we've done that before.
So again, maybe I should put those in, and it's still part of the policy to send to Mark and Thomas and see if that reflects how they're doing it, or how they see it being done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you, Anna. Are you looking at placement in mathematics courses?
Is that page, oh, this is
So
the English one.
it says there's an optional paragraph on page 32,
Mm-hmm.
and we already had that optional paragraph. There's a note about appeals to be revised by district, to reflect district practice. But the paragraph didn't change from the previous paragraph we had, so I'm assuming that the previous paragraph was correct and fitted district policy.
This was a big push right when I was leaving. Nothing.
And we actually have options at the high school for our students, so I'm happy with what we're doing mathematically there. And then the appeals, I think that's kind of all of what's happening now. The CTE, Scott, I know you asked if we had a CTE advisory board. We do, and that CTE advisory board does meet annually.
And you can
Okay.
find it on the web page. I ran across it so you could see who's on the board and their comments. It was actually pretty
Okay.
interesting.
Thanks.
And then I have page 34 and 36 have optional. My pages don't always come up on my iPad.
Yeah, 34.
So on 34, we do have a CTE advisory committee to develop recommendations on the district CTE program to service the between district and potential employers.
And that paragraph was already in the policy. It's blue because it was just moved from one place to another, so it's not a new paragraph to us.
Okay.
As is the one on the
I
next
thought
page.
Mary would be here and be our
Yeah.
Go-to.
Uh-huh.
So the blue part of the paragraph on the next page is just moved from somewhere else. The green, obviously, is the new portion of the paragraph.
And I would assume that's all part of the new Perkins
Right.
requirements and that we're
Mhm.
doing it anyway.
And the next green paragraph, to the extent required by the law, is there for districts that receive funding through Perkins, which is us. So that has to be there. And there's a red paragraph that's gone, and another red paragraph that's gone.
I love when there's lots of red. We can just keep on
And then we
going.
come to the following paragraph, maybe revised to reflect requirements, and then the green paragraph below obviously needs to be reflecting of what we're doing.
On 36?
On page 36, yeah.
So I think you do report to us about
We do.
enrollment in the
So that
programs.
paragraph's good.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next few blue paragraphs are just the blue strikeout paragraphs that were moved already from red, and that's the end of that one. Do you want me to carry on?
Sure.
Say page 40.
So the next one is the CTE one again, and it's, I think, a lot of law change. It's an optional administrative regulation, and we had it before, but it's definitely got a lot of changes in it, so might need a careful review.
So this one is is this whole,
The whole thing is optional.
this whole AR is
Yeah.
optional?
Mhm.
So then I would say for right now, because we are in the middle of our CTE
Mhm.
stuff, that we hold off on this optional policy for just right now.
Okay.
61,
And let's
78.
look at it through the advisory council.
So but we're okay with the BP going through?
Maybe do both.
Or should both of them go to?
Wow.
The BP is not optional.
Right, but if it doesn't reflect current practice, I mean.
Well, the
it's
BP
fine.
Kinda
actually
did.
does reflect current stuff.
Yeah.
Because we are doing the advisory committee, they are connected to the,
And we are
industry
receiving
employers.
Perkins
And you're
money.
reporting
we are
out.
receiving Perkins money.
And
So
you're
that
reporting.
one is the AR, if that is,
It's really massively, massively changed, so it's hardly any black.
because that AR is not based on Perkins. Pardon?
Well, it talks about what is this called? Partnership Academy.
Yeah.
Strengthening career and technical education for the 21st Century Act. It's not
See, I wonder if this is part of that workforce.
a strong workforce program.
Oh, yeah, it did have that language in it. Strong.
Oh, we're not doing.
Well, as an option, as it's an optional policy, you could decide to just remove it from the board policy.
In the AR. Yeah.
Just remove the whole
The
AR. And if it comes back into play as something that we do, then you could bring it back.
See, I
It's
think this is part of
new
the strong workforce. I don't think this is us.
Well, it says strengthening, or basic grant for strengthening career and technical education for the 21st century. Is that, what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's not
so
our
then we
grant.
just need to take it out.
Just remove
So
that.
we're removing.
Okay.
So that applies to that.
The AR
Completely?
6178.
Delete.
So we're taking it out? Everybody,
Mm-hmm.
So the next one is evaluation of instructional program. It's an optional policy that we already have. there's there's an optional section.
Which page, Anna?
46.
We're on page 47, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The first page has one new paragraph. And I think that's, looks okay. Are you looking at one?
So this whole thing is optional.
It is optional, and we did have it already. There's more red than green.
And I would say we do this now by our benchmark presentation to the board. If we present the student data, do we present it for a significant student group, like our ELs or Hispanic population? That's something we could easily do.
It doesn't say may. Seems like it says may a lot.
No, it says shall.
Oh, well, that's different than may. Right, but does it say that you're supposed to go to the?
Yeah, the superintendent or designee shall provide the board and community with regular reports on student achievement.
Well, you do that.
We do it.
That we do.
The reports shall include data for each district, school, and for each numeric. We do that through the CAS. We just,
So it's not that you have to go to like ELAC and.
no, this is stuff we already do.
Dashboard stuff.
Okay.
That all look good?
Yeah, I think that's fine. And we have the whole WASC thing.
And that's the,
That's not changing. That's the same as it was
Right.
written.
yeah, and that's the end of that first packet of policies.
Any questions?
Thank you for separating them out. Anna.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any public comment? Okay, moving on to 11.4. So another section of policy.
Okay, these ones are all the most recent batch of CSBA updates from July. These ones are all a lot more straightforward, so I don't think there's too much to look at that's...
And I think that's how you split them up. The ones that are just
Right.
kind of law changes, not much to discuss,
Right.
and then the ones that have the optional.
We're getting lower or later.
Yeah, everyone's
Later,
whispering.
yeah. We are getting
Like a
quieter as
secret.
the.
So I'm gonna try it down here.
How you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Trustee Mattson?
Hey.
Okay, so on 11.4, the majority of 11.4, as I'm seeing it, is law changes. Let's see.
I had a question on page 3 and 4 about this crisis. Do we have an official?
Comprehensive safety plan, right, crisis
Whatever
communication plan.
Okay, the district shall impose.
No, I'm trying to find it. It's just from my notes. Let's see.
Yeah, so the comprehensive plan is what I was, I guess, referring to earlier in the meeting.
It's not on
Okay.
page 3 or 4, so I don't know what I wrote.
So it's in that section that it's on the top of page 4, and it's in the notes about the changes. It's not actually...
Oh, there it is,
yeah,
okay.
so it's just notes. But it does say the superintendent or designee shall develop strategies for working with the media to provide timely and accurate information to students, blah, 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 which already is in place. And the next policy, which starts on page 6, Wendy ran this past the insurance company because I looked at it and it was just a whole, everything was changed.
It was hard to
and
follow,
they did,
too,
I did send you out a note with it saying that the insurance company could either not recommend or...
They weren't
Yeah.
making commenting on it because apparently there's some lawsuit going on that I don't know if they're involved in it or not, but they said that they weren't in a place to make a recommendation one way or the other, but that we should go forward with it because it needs to be done. So,
Because you'd have exposure if you didn't have it.
yeah, so it was sort of a backhanded blessing of it. And they wouldn't comment on it, but said, you should update this because yours is old.
Okay.
And then the next one starts on page 11, and there's minimal change in this one, I think. Very minimal. So then the next one, no, this next one is actually a repeat of the same policy that is in the previous batch. So I suggest we disregard it in this format because I've already addressed it in the previous pack. I don't know how it got into both.
Right. That's why I had a question mark.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So it's the same policy. So the next one is gangs on page 17. And this is all updates from a new resource from the National Gang Center and LAPD. So just new information, padding out the facts, I'm guessing, padding out the information. And the AR that falls, sorry, the AR is first, the BP is second. Same thing. Superintendent shall develop strategies for gang prevention, so forth.
SRO, here we come.
And then athletic competition. This was changed because of new law. Minimal changes because I think we recently.
What page, Anna?
We are, sorry, page 23.
And this has to go with gender.
Right.
So whatever gender the student identifies is the sport for which they can participate.
And the opioid fact sheet, which I believe is in the athletic handbook already.
Right.
And then the next one, starting on page 28, is the international exchange. It's an optional AR. We had the AR previously. There's a minimal change to it as it stands. And the following one is on page 30, which is the BP, about international exchange again.
My only concern with this, and Kathy, you probably are going to know more than I will, we don't necessarily receive a request from from organizations saying, hey, we would like to have an exchange student at Fort Bragg High School next year, and that happens before the end of the school year. Typically that happens to us in the summer. Isn't that when we usually get them? I don't.
Yeah, and it's nowadays it's like Rotary and whatnot. It's
right.
Before they used to have those independent programs, but now it's much more organized. But it usually comes late.
Right. When AR 6145.6 talks about prior to enrolling an international exchange student, the superintendent or designee shall provide the international student exchange placement organization with a written acceptance for the enrollment, including arrangements concerning the payment of tuition or the waiver of the tuition if applicable. Where did it say before the end of that?
We don't have tuition.
Right.
In the next one, in order to approve, and it's black, the admission of an international exchange student, superintendent or designee must receive a written request for enrollment before the end of the preceding school year. And we just don't
Do that.
It just doesn't work out that way. But is this whole thing an optional AR?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I just don't even know if this is necessary anymore, to be quite honest with you.
How does it work when Rotary brings a student over here, like the gals here from Brazil right now?
They notify the high school, and
Take them for one more, and we're good to go.
And
They get classes, and then there's a discussion about whether they want credit for the year they're here, and that's, to deal with transcripts and stuff, but.
Do you get ADA for that student?
That's a great question. I believe I have to ask Sarah that question, because how is that student entered in CalPads?
Trying to remember.
I don't know if we get ADA for that student, to be quite honest with you. I don't know.
It probably depends on if they want to get credit or
But there's,
Otherwise,
well,
they're-
I don't think any, but well, at least in my 15 years there, I don't think anybody like got pass fail. I mean, it was whether or not they were in English, history, you know, trying to fulfill certain requirements, or they were just taking electives all day. But that's a bummer if we don't. I never.
I don't know the answer to that, to be quite honest with you.
That's interesting.
I would think that most of them are pretty academically on top of things to be able to get here. So
Depends on
where they come from.
Yeah.
Oh,
most
we
kids
had
of
a-
that age
we
have
had a couple.
graduated their high
Yeah,
schools.
there are some.
That are here
it's-
for-
Certain countries, it's more of an entitlement rather than a
Is it what your last name
process. And some of them, the expected standards are a little higher.
for the most part, it's a great program. Just leave
It
at that.
is.
It
We,
actually
I,
is.
yeah.
Is it a pretty active program?
Right now, we just have it through Rotary. To be quite honest with you, those are the only exchange students we've been receiving.
And do we send, any kids from here go anywhere else?
Mhm.
Through Rotary.
Yeah.
It's all done through Rotary.
Right now it is. We do have some students who've actually gone through national programs. You pay though. You pay
The
to
student.
participate.
The student
Mhm.
pays.
So, and we've had a couple families who have international grandchildren or international nieces and nephews, and those folks come here and live with their relatives for a year. But they have to have a visa that reflects that. And then we enroll them through a caregiver affidavit, and we do get ADA for those kids. So I don't know how it works on the Rotary Exchange though. Supplemental instruction.
So are we deleting those, or?
Yeah, so what are we doing with the?
Yeah, do we want
Oh,
to keep the
If
AR?
International.
it's optional, I would say right now
Cut
that we
it.
just cut it.
And there's,
No, that's
A
the
BP.
AR is optional, but the BP we're sticking with.
I don't think the BP is optional, is it?
It
optional?
doesn't say that
It
they,
does not say that it is optional.
there's an optional paragraph on, sorry, my pages
30,
don't
I
show
think.
up. 31.
And it looks like that's to do with more independence into international students.
Right, not through Rotary.
Yeah.
So should we leave it out? Since we never really know where they're coming through?
If it's optional, I say we do.
delete if possible.
No, this one says, the next thing says recommended that districts consult with legal counsel in determining a formula. Oh, this is cost, we don't charge anybody. That must be why, because we must not get the ADA. That's why they're putting the cost in there.
Yeah, that's, so what do you want to do with that?
I would think based on precedent, we're not gonna start charging people.
Well, and
But-
especially if we're working with Rotary and our kids are going somewhere else as well for no charge, and there's no additional impact, because one of the things that we do, we look at is when we have exchange students, they can't tip a scale, meaning they can't be rolled into a class where there's already 30 kids in it, because then we'd have to pay overages on it. So we make sure that our exchange students are in classes where they make no cost impact as far as violating contract language.
So can we just take those out? All the stuff about cost? The optional paragraph about the ISEO or IS,
Yeah,
that can come out,
okay.
but I guess, oh, and this is recommended to consult with the legal as determining such a formula, but can we take the formula out, do you think, Anna? Just take that green paragraph out?
Probably. I think maybe I should research a little further and see if this actually is a policy that we do have to keep.
Right,
And
we could
maybe
just
it
delete
is
it.
an optional policy if the AR is optional. So maybe I can go back to CSBA and check that first.
Because we can pull that before action next month.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So now we're on supplemental.
Page 34.
My pages aren't coming up at the moment. 33 and 34.
Supplemental instructions.
So there's optional on where all this red is on, I don't know what page. Looks like it all came out. Oh, on 34, sorry, it takes a while before it pops up on,
Page 34?
yeah,
Page 34 or 44?
34. Oh, just because they're gonna be going to support classes.
Mhm.
Right.
To put your,
We already do that.
Mm-hmm. And then this is the one. So this one was deleted, one was,
Are you looking at the board bylaws? Yeah, so there was, the previous version of the closed session was deleted completely, and then 9321 on page 38 is the replacement of that whole board bylaw. Well, it's not actually, it's not the replacement. It's, they were both in existence, and one's been deleted and one's been edited, sorry. So the one that has been edited to incorporate everything that was taken from the one that's been deleted. So basically they took the two and amalgamated them and created a new version.
well, it's interesting that CSBA is the one that puts these out, but it says because of the potential conflict on page,
41.
there, yeah, it says that you should send it to legal.
So there's a conflict between state and federal law. I think it's about
Do we think that's
disclosure.
okay?
Well, it's just about making sure that the student has a number and not a name.
Which we've always done.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness we haven't had to do that very many times. That was your first meeting, wasn't it?
I think it was, possibly. So, yeah, I probably blocked it out. Traumatizing.
Okay, so are we looking at next? Man, this one's beefy.
Yeah, there's a yellow.
There's a yellow on page
optional,
45.
yeah.
Yeah.
45.
Yes.
Following is about closed session. Yeah, but this is about expulsion, isn't it? Oh, no.
This is to do with
More on
review of
the
audit reports.
Audit, yeah.
Don't we already do this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if there's action, we report, but
Oh, if it requires a response, yeah. So
Mhm.
if there's icky stuff in there and it requires a response to the state auditor's office, apparently you can meet in closed session to draft that response.
And that last one is all exited out.
It's all
isn't it?
deleted. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that was just taken out and shoved into that
Best
one.
one ever.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I saved it till last.
Oh, wow, yay.
okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay. So we're just gonna have that one that needs to be looked at before next meeting.
There was two, the high school graduation. and
Oh, that
then
was from, but legal. One was legal and
Yeah.
one was
CTE.
high school.
I got it, I got the note. Sure. Thanks.
And really, Anna, I don't know how many hours it takes you, but the
Thank you.
striking and stuff
It's
is,
very
it
helpful.
saves the five of us time anyway, so
Yes.
thank you very,
In the old days, we didn't have that.
no. and, yeah, opening them both.
Highlighting
and
it. Well, I
E.
had to have them printed.
So I could
Yeah.
strike them.
Okay, so we're done with that. All right. We have advanced planning and suggestions for board members. So we tried to do a little doodle. Well, the Monday didn't work before Thanksgiving, so we would like to do a board workshop. And several of our, Jerry and I have finished we did it the first cycle around, then Diana finished, then now Mary's finished, and now Scott's in knee deep, and so is Becky. So we kind of wanted to come together and talk about that and the vision and mission and a few other things. So we tried for the week of Thanksgiving, that didn't work out, and then we tried 3 Saturdays in November, and there isn't any Saturday that everybody can be there. So do we want to try a weeknight instead, or
Keep my Thursdays open.
do we want to try a Thursday night? Okay. So check with Becky's calendar. Okay. So housekeeping, lots of things going on in the district. We did take off. We are not meeting for the special board meeting in October. We are having the regular and the special in November. Any other, sorry, I didn't ask, any other suggestions for meetings or topics?
I just wanted a clarification. So the board chat, is that kind of taking the place of the parent advisory committee time? Because we had at one time, I think in August, thought we were going to have an 8:30 time for parents to come in to talk about LCAP or any other issues. So is that going to be something rolling out later, or is this the board chat?
Well, I'm wondering, I think we need to do it through the board chat, because
Okay.
if we keep that meeting consistent.
It'll start building that consistency. So
Yeah.
that'll be kind of in place of, because I was just wondering if, because I know we had 4 dates, but then that went awry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if we should look at the board chat for time changes, because at 7:45, the one person that came at 8.
Mm.
You know, and when Ms. Erickson has coffee with the principal, I believe that starts at 8:30, but it always.
But that's after, I think she does that after drop off for, we've got to cover 5 school sites. So 7:45 is before, but I mean, high school and it's 8 o'clock. The kids should be there at 8 o'clock. So,
Mhm.
and we were just trying to give them a full hour. If we want to move the time,
Or that's
we're
what-
not hearing anything that's the problem.
Right, and that's what I was wondering, if it was like, if this was going to be in addition to, or if we're going to end up merging the two.
You mean the LCAP input?
Mm-hmm.
That, my understanding was that was going to be the same as the board chat.
Okay.
That we were going to do it at that time.
Okay.
I have to tell you, I know it's only been twice, but I love the idea that we have a venue for parents to come and talk to 2 board members prior to the board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's consistent. Oh, there's a board meeting tonight, I can't go. Well, I think.
Well, and maybe if we have topics, and when it does go out on Aries, because I think I had my Aries is a little wiggy, and so I didn't get the little memo. And so someone said, "Well, what's the open forum that's happening?" I'm like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's the stakeholder meeting. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. And so I think it was called, because we've called it board chat, open forum, and I think it said an LCAP, and so maybe we could have a title to topic.
So I called
And-
the board
and
chat
some.
this last time,
Mhm.
and then with the opportunity to discuss concerns in LCAP. That's
So-
why I put that in the
right.
announcement, so that it was all.
Right. So it was still, like I said, I didn't know it because I didn't see it. But that's
So
good. So that's.
Do you think 8 to 9 is easier for parents? I mean, do they think if they don't get there at 7:45, they can't come? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I have
do you
no
want,
idea.
I mean, I have to mark off at work, because another plan was that if I left at 8:45, I could get to work at 9.
Oh, well, then hey, you know what?
But
Let's
I
just-
can,
I mean,
until January, I'm kind of flexible.
We've been sitting there, and the parent that came at 8 o'clock both times, we had the conversation, and we ended at 8:45. So,
Mhm.
and it was good.
Well, that's because I start packing up my coffee machine. I hope that's not, I just have to go to
Well,
work.
let's just leave it there.
Keep it-
Let's
keep
just
it the same.
and just see, let's give it a full, let's give it a full, like, 6 months?
Well, we'd scheduled them out through December and then to talk about it at our organization meeting.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
And I guess, so give us 2 more to see.
And then do you want them for during the special board meeting? Do you want them available or no? Just regular board meeting?
I think just
With-
regular.
Yeah, with the numbers we're getting, I think the regular is just fine. I mean, if people are coming, I'm more than willing to be there, because that's the point. But
Right, I'm with you.
that's
Okay,
working
regular
for
board
our
meetings on
visitor
it.
and,
There are no Thursdays in November, by the way, that will work. Because we've got 7th, Becky's out of town, the 21st,
Mm.
14th, the board meetings, and 28th is Thanksgiving.
So we have to go
The
into
only
just,
reason I couldn't make the third one is just kind of, it's the Saturday after Thanksgiving, it's kind of weird.
oh, the 30th? Well,
Yeah.
the 3 people can't make that
I
one.
mean, I found out I have to be out of town, but I wouldn't have to be if that was like the only day.
Well, the one that, it's the 2nd and the 23rd are the ones that
The
have the most
closest.
people, yeah.
The closest. So we have to look into December then, or a different day?
Will the 23rd work for folks or are people out of town?
Not for Mary.
It was okay for me.
Okay. And the 2nd, how many people were,
4.
and who was the one?
I'm out of the
Scott.
country.
Oh, good job. I don't know if we're gonna get all 5 of you together for a board workshop, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, it's
And-
not-
That's an interesting, yeah.
Or you take, one of our board meetings and we start at 3 o'clock.
Does everyone still have next Thursday marked off?
Oh, that's an interesting concept.
Are we ready?
Bring the special back, but make it the board workshop night.
I know.
I kind of like the 3 o'clock idea.
That's fine.
Jerry's not available.
Okay.
7, 8,
And
9.
I don't know if
Break
Mary,
housing workshop on second units at the Casper Farmhouse.
Oh, yes, there is. I read
5:30
about
to
that today.
7.
That's
and
right.
then I would, Mary might
Considering the
not be.
housing issues this district has.
Okay.
That would be a
Especially
6-hour
as
meeting,
it's,
6 or 7 hour meeting,
Well,
but
it's
that's an
kind of a long
idea.
day.
It's an
Or
option.
we just pick a weekend and we lose either Mary or Scott. And I don't want to lose anyone, but it just depends on how pressing you want this to be. Or we wait till after the organizational meeting in December and we pick a day in December.
But December, is going to be busy.
Well, Mary was the one that asked for this, or, threw it on the table, so
Ask her if she wants a 3 o'clock, or
Let's do this. We're gonna throw out another doodle. Okay, let's,
And just throw anything out there that,
All right, I will throw out as many dates as are physically possible for Becky to make.
That's
and you guys
reasonable.
can
Perfect.
respond, and if anything works, it works.
great.
Okay.
And if not, you can do it without me.
but you can input. By paper.
okay.
well, and maybe maybe at the special, because it won't be a long.
Let me throw the doodle poll out first and see if something comes up. We'll know straight away.
And then no hope for a student rep? Any rotating?
I have, and now Katrina's out, so.
Okay, no rotating. I thought even a rotating student from each site, like once a month have
Oh,
a
that would
different.
be fun for
just
the littles to
some-
come up.
Edward student?
Sure.
Just to come give a little,
Okay.
they could come tell us about Friday morning opening.
They could read their
Wouldn't that
poem.
be sweet?
We could sing the
That would just make
song.
us all smile.
Mellow out the group.
Yeah,
I don't know.
okay.
Like that would be something for someone to do. Or we each get, I don't know, anyway. I guess we'll just
on-
proceed.
Are we on housekeeping or are we on adjournment?
We're moving on
We're
to
just about
adjournment.
adjournment.
Mary,
Jerry's slipping.
come on,
I
man.
didn't want to be rude.
Come on, Jerry.
Are we all done with everything else?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
Yes, yes.
Anna seconding whether,
I think we can
whether we do or
Thank you all for
not.
watching, thank you all for coming.
I got a phone